What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories. 5th Avenue, 081, Marines give it a go. Shang Zhen Xian Shi Yuan Wen Quan Wan Shou Wu Lu Guan Rakuten Travel HK, 352 Hong Kong dollars Rakuten Travel. Ri Ben Xing Nei Ling Xian Wang Sheng Lu Xing Shi. Luffy is ready to end the war and bring Ace out, and right now. When the Marine defense line was completely defeated. Seeing that the last line of defense is about to collapse, the entire Marine ceases to exist. Their downfall. Looming. A stalwart man stood out from behind the Marine. He was wearing the robe of Martial Marine, his sharp eyes were full of sharp coldness, the cold wind howled, blowing away the seriousness on his face, the robe fluttered, showing his haki at a glance. It is Sengoku of Marine Marshal Buddha. Good. The current Sengoku jumped from the execution platform. He came to the front line of the battlefield. As a marshal, he leads by example. Live and die with soldiers. At the same time, when Buddha Sengoku came to the front line, 400, there were two more behind him. One is Staff Crane, and the other is Garp the Fist, the legendary Marine hero. The Iron Triangle of Marine back then. Destroy the Marine of the Rocks era in the Valley of the Gods. The three of them came forward together, let alone Marine. Even many people on the side of the Whitebeard pirates and the prisoners were shocked. These three people, but the person with absolute power in Marine. Fame accumulated over the sea. Not even half a point behind Whitebeard. Prisoners and crew confront them just as Marine confronts Whitebeard. That innate sense of oppression immediately enveloped everyone on the scene. Master Marshal, why did you come to the front line? This is not the place for you. Seeing that Sengoku actually took the lead and came to the front line, some mid-laners said in horror. Not where I should be. Then where should I go? Don't forget, I am the Marshal of the Marine. Sengoku answered calmly. His words. Let the Vice Admirals look excited one by one. Yes. Sengoku is their marshal, the backbone of their entire Marine. It is also their last hole card. In addition to the three admirals, it is the top combat power. There is no doubt about its strength, even more oppressive than Admiral. But one size fits all. Watching Sengoku come forward in person. Some of the vice admirals bowed their heads in shame. Let the marshals go into battle in person. They really are not a group of qualified Marine soldiers. I'm sorry, Marshal, the vice admirals said in embarrassment. Don't say I'm sorry, you're right, what happened today was my misjudgment, it has nothing to do with you. The Whitebeard pirates and the Straw Hat pirates are too strong, you have tried your best. Sengoku didn't blame the Marines in front of him who had done their best, but comforted him gently. However, the more Sengoku comforted, the more they felt sorry. Don't say Vice Admiral, even some soldiers gritted their teeth and lowered their heads. You have to remember that behind you is our Marine, and behind our Marine are tens of millions of people. You may be able to push back, but I absolutely cannot. Sengoku said to Marine who was born with haki, say it. He stepped forward. From now on, there will be no Marine Marshal, only a Sengoku soldier. Sengoku charged into the crowd first, behind Sengoku. Garp and Crane share the same hatred. The three of them were like three fierce tigers, with a magnificent momentum, piercing through the sea of clouds and shattering the whole earth. The three of them came out, the situation has become more subtle. Even the captains led by Marco are not opponents at all. The soldiers were furious, the marshals went into battle in person. What right do they have to stay behind here? As the marshal said, they can back down, but the marshal cannot, because behind the marshal, there are tens of millions of people. This war. Their Marine has reached the point where they cannot lose. In any case, let Marine take the final throne, because if even they fall, who will protect the last dignity of the Marine behind them? A raging fire burned in the hearts of the soldiers. This moment, all the soldiers were mobilized by Sengoku. Everyone's face changed from the initial despair, the prisoners in the white group were risking their lives. Then why can't they forget to die, isn't it just a life? A scar the size of a bowl fell off my head, kill. Nor at least whoever yelled first. Marine regained morale, even higher than the initial military prestige. A large number of Marines charged forward, collided with the white group and the prisoners. They were up and down with knives. With the last bit of strength, he fought with Marine and the prisoners. As the saying goes, if you are horizontal, you are afraid of being stunned, if you are stupefied, you are afraid of dying. Marine is now working with one mind, and everything has reached a desperate level. Not to mention the crew of the Whitebeard pirates, even the prisoners who have been walking on the tip of the knife all year round were shocked. Is this Marine? They can actually show such a terrible blood? Good, good, good. Watching all the Marines charge forward, Sengoku said three good words in succession. Warriors, send these pirates and prisoners to where they should go. Kill. The overwhelming Marine soldiers began to counterattack. There is quite a sense of sight of breaking the boat and turning the corner. Not only that, Sengoku gave the last order. Let the 200 warships outside the Gate of Justice bomb the Whitebeard's rear. All of a sudden, 200 warships came to the rear of Whitebeard's regiment. They used the most violent artillery fire to baptize the Whitebeard pirates. 1.3 Daddy, 200 warships are bombarding our rear. It's not good, Dad, the artillery fire behind us can't withstand the impact of the Marine at all. Our backs are about to be breached by Marine's warships. Oops, neglecting the rear defense, we were double-teamed by Marine. One after another, emergencies reached Whitebeard's ears. This made Whitebeard frown. He looked sharply at Sengoku, who was leading the way in the distance. Ahead comes Sengoku's desperate attack with his soldiers. There are 200 warships baptizing with full artillery fire behind them. There are wolves in front and tigers in back. The situation is reversed again. Their white regiment and prisoners are pinned down. 082. Marine shakes and climbs to the top of the execution platform. Looking at the situation in front of him, Whitebeard looked in Sengoku's direction. Did not think of, at such a critical juncture, he still has such a unique trick. Sengoku. Whitebeard said grimly, it is indeed a more difficult opponent than Garp. Even at such a difficult step, they still have the determination to wipe out their Whitebeard pirates. Peerless the resourceful general, Sengoku of the Buddha, martial marine, unparalleled in the world. Driven by Sengoku. A sailor obviously broke one arm, but he slashed with the other arm. What about the two broken arms? Then bite with his mouth. His eyes were red and fierce. Every marine is like a wild beast. Full of breath. Even in death, his eyes were also piercing and staring, never closing them. They were on Juyu Wangshen Road, waiting for this group of prisoners and the Baitwan to come. The people of the white group and the prisoners were forced to retreat by the marine. They can't think of anything. These soldiers actually have such a scene. Kill 08, go up. These marines have nothing to fear, they are only one step away from the execution platform. Some prisoners commanded hard, can be their command. It doesn't help at all. The route that should be routed cannot stop the impact of the marines at all. And behind them, the baptism of artillery fire from 200 warships also fell on the rear of their prisoners. The rear is also double-teamed by marine. There are wolves in front and tigers in back. The home was actually stolen. All the prisoners panicked. At a loss. Some unlucky prisoners were directly killed by marine on the spot. Luffy also saw the artillery fire of the 200 warships in the rear. He narrowed his eyes. This is marine's give and take. If you can stand it, then marine is gone, obvious. Whether it's a prisoner or a crew member of the white regiment. First can't stop marine who wants to die now. Put it to death and live later. Luffy didn't think Sengoku was awesome before, but today. He really noticed it. If you can defeat the white regiment and the prisoners, that's all. Invincible now. He made marine shrink completely and retreat to the bottom of the execution platform. Taking this as a starting point, when there was no way to retreat, Marshal Sengoku stepped forward in person to boost marine's morale in one fell swoop. Then launched the final blow of the last blow. Cooperate with the 200 warships. Disrupt the morale of the white regiment and the prisoners. One ebbs in another. Even the white regiment and prisoners who had experienced many battles did not dare to confront the desperate marine soldiers in front of them. He let out a mouthful of foul air. Good means. Luffy gave a sigh of admiration. This will greatly improve marine's morale. The advantages are numerous. But soon Luffy also discovered the drawbacks. That is when Sengoku Garp played in person, the direction of the execution platform, the defense was already empty. Ace at the moment. It has reached the point where no one is guarding it. Shua. Luffy stomped on the ground. The ground was dented by his stepping on it. And he, like a meteorite, it flew towards the execution platform. Luffy is now the focus of the audience, his one action. Immediately attracted the attention of the entire marine. No, he wants to run towards the execution platform. Some marine soldiers immediately spotted Luffy's advance. Straw Hat. Suddenly, a man stood in front of Luffy. He is Vice Admiral of Marine. But, even Vice Admiral can't stop Luffy's pace at all. Just one blow. Vice Admiral was thrown out by Luffy. The other Marines, the vulgar Rear Admiral, the Colonel, etc. all wanted to stop Luffy. Even Vice Admiral couldn't stop it, not to mention these ordinary Marine soldiers. In a blink of an eye, everything has been solved by him. Solved the immediate enemy. How fast Luffy is. In the blink of an eye, we came to the execution platform. One step to the top. Luffy becomes the first pirate to step onto the execution block. Luffy, he's on the scaffold. Who's going to stop him? The current execution platform has no anti-theft area at all. The Marines started to get anxious, to really be taken by Luffy Ace. Then their Marine will be finished. Sengoku's face was depressed, as early as when he stepped down from the execution platform himself. Such a situation had already been expected. The execution stand was empty. Will be occupied by these pirates, but he didn't think of it. The execution platform was taken so quickly, in a blink of an eye, he handed over to others. Garp. Sengoku called out to Garp. Garp took a step forward, eyeing Sengoku. Remember what I told you at the beginning? Before the Summit War started, Sengoku knew about Garp's relationship with Ace, and the two talked privately. The general content is that his current status is extremely important, he is Marine's pillar of the sky, and he must not let Marine feel disappointed for the sake of Ace. Remember. Garp naturally remembered this incident. The three admirals have all encountered equal enemies, and Vice Admiral is not Luffy's opponent. Shichibukai can't dispatch 223, and now he can return to the execution platform. Sengoku turned around and said to Garp, "You are the only one left." Garp understood what Sengoku meant. Whether it's Ace or Luffy, both of them are close relatives of Garp. Their Marine has reached such a critical juncture. Absolutely not abolish the public for personal reasons. Give it to me. Garp didn't say much, just say it calmly. After all, still can't escape and make enemies with Luffy and the others? Garp's heart sank, looking at the big prime stick in Marineford. Marine. Always in Garp's heart, on the execution stand. Luffy. Seeing Luffy on top of the execution platform, Ace was very excited. Since the last time Alabasta said goodbye, it has been half a year since we haven't seen each other. Ace. Luffy said softly. For this cheap guy, Luffy really doesn't want to admit it. My original age is almost 3 years old. Even at Robin's age, he can call him little sister. Well. No way. Who let the original Luffy have several of their relatives? Open black lens bracket 083 close black lens bracket decisive battle Garp Marineford earthquake. Luffy, you've grown stronger. Looking at Luffy in front of him, Ace said with some relief. There is sincerity in the words, with a smile of reunion. I have indeed become stronger, but Ace, you seem to have stagnated. You have been in New World for so long, why can't you even beat Blackbeard? Luffy said jokingly. When I saw my brother, even though it was in Marineford, the surroundings were full of Marines. The reunion between brothers is always touching. Unexpectedly, Luffy's words. Let Ace get blindfolded. Just kidding, Ace, I'll take you out right away. Seeing Ace like this, Luffy smiled faintly. Luffy, do you have the key? Ace asked. No, Luffy shook his head. Then how do you open the seastone handcuffs? Ace is now. His hands were handcuffed and imprisoned in place, unable to move. The mountain people have their own tricks, Luffy said calmly. Ace was wearing chains, yes, and chains were also nailed to the execution platform. Since this copy chain cannot be opened, simply destroy it. The top priority is not to open Ace's copy chain, but to bring Ace out of here. Marine has launched a death-defying counterattack. The white group and the prisoners couldn't last long. Time. It's time to race against time, as the saying goes. You can't eat hot tofu in a hurry. The more anxious you are, the more prone to accidents. Just when Luffy was about to quit drinking, Ace brought him out of here. Luffy beware. Ace hastily shouted at Luffy. The voice just fell. Behind Luffy, there appeared a Vice Admiral robe. Under the gray hair, the previous kindness had completely disappeared, and instead was the very serious Marine hero Garp the Fist. Garp fell from the sky, come right behind Luffy. Luffy has a meal. He just felt as if he was being targeted by hundreds of Sea Kings. The whole body is cold from head to toe. Turn around slowly. As expected, it was his old man who brought him oppression. Garp the Fist. Luffy, turn around and get out of here quickly. Today's situation is not trivial. If you don't listen to the old man's persuasion, the old man will not be merciful today. Say it. A rush of killing came from above Garp's body. Luffy seems to be facing a gravitational fruit with a smile. The pressure in all directions enveloped him and squeezed him. It's just Garp's pressure. It just gave Luffy a very dangerous feeling. No doubt. Garp has been serious. Him now. Even more dangerous than last time. Luffy go, you are no match for Grandpa. It seems to be because of being beaten by Garp since childhood. For Garp, Ace has a kind of visceral fear. Ace was also a little chilly. Father, what if I don't look back? Luffy asked back. Even if you are my grandson, I will send you to impel down. Garp said calmly. Send it into progress. And then, repeat the mistakes of Ace, and start a summit war? Asked Luffy. Garp, if Luffy was really sent into impel down by himself. I'm afraid there will really be an end like Ace. Stop talking nonsense, old man, maybe you are not my opponent now. In the face of Garp the Fist, Luffy not only has no fear, but even faces difficulties. Garp also broke out with all his strength. The old and the young fought together again. This time. Fight more than ever. The moment Garp met Luffy, his expression began to change. Luffy, you become stronger again. The current Luffy, Li Huang, is not weaker than himself at all. Garp uses ultimate speed to crush Luffy, but was shocked to find out. Luffy's speed. Not much worse than myself. Strength, speed, the peak rubber fruit. Luffy entered 4th gear in an instant. The Ape King gun mode is on, strength once again climbed to a new level. What, it was incredible to see Luffy so fast. Garp was a little overwhelmed, forced to retreat by Luffy. Luffy broke out with all his strength when he came up, desperate and spared no effort. Physical strength is like a bottomless pit, constantly releasing attacks towards Garp. Finally. Boom. Luffy punched Garp hard. Garp flew out and fell headlong into the ruins on the ground. Vice Admiral Garp. Garp. When the Marine soldiers saw their Garp being shot by Luffy, everyone was shocked from ear to ear. That's their Vice Admiral Garp. An existence that can sit in Admiral's position and make the three Admirals dare not chew their voices. Nowadays, he actually had such an embarrassing scene. Although many people saw Luffy defeating Garp in the Chowshingshin battle, there are still many Marines who have only heard about it. Never seen it with my own eyes. Now, the fact was before them. They couldn't help but not believe it, inside the ruins. Garp was scared to come out. He looks ashamed, but the fighting spirit on his face is getting stronger and stronger. Good. Garp at the moment, inspired by Luffy to fight. Garp just felt his blood boil. Since Roger's death that year, he has never had such passion. I thought that this life might be hopeless, igniting the fighting spirit. But by coincidence, it was picked up by Luffy. Drink. Garp yelled loudly, fell into the lightning, and flew towards Lu, Qian Haojiao. Luffy is also bursting out with all his strength. Two top masters collided. The Marineford earthquake came. The scene was dazzled, and the airwaves were monstrous, blasting the sky and tearing the sea. Soldiers cannot lean in at all. The crew members of the White Regiment also squinted their eyes. Master tricks. It is only between a few breaths. After the hardy fists clashed, Garp blasted back out. Face Luffy. He has fallen into a disadvantage, hard to imagine. Garp, who chased Roger the Pirate King all over the world, was also suppressed by Luffy. Sweat broke out on Garp's forehead, this own grandson. He was a little bit overwhelmed. Old man, don't you really want to save Ace? Just when the two sides were entangled, Luffy spoke. Open black lens bracket 084 close black lens bracket. The Marine hero is defeated again. Old man, don't you want Ace to leave safely? This matchup with Garp was tougher than anyone else, and Luffy could relate to that. Compared to Garp, he'd rather be alone against other admirals. It's not that other admirals are not good enough. It's purely because Luffy has devil fruit immunity. Whether it's lava fruit or frozen fruit, his body is invulnerable. An ability that was originally very domineering, but when facing Garp, it seems a bit tasteless. Without him, Garp is not demon fruit power. Especially his pair of iron fists of love. The punching Luffy breaks the defense. Besides, it looked like he was pinning Garp. Garp wasn't his opponent or anything. But actually, if you really want to solve Garp, I'm afraid there will be no day and night. Time waits for no one. Think here. Luffy felt he had to find another way. At least, you have to change your mind. Hearing Luffy's words, Garp frowned. Luffy, what do you want to say? I know what fate you are carrying, old man. You are the backbone of Marine, and you are the pillar of the sky. Don't forget, Ace is your grandson. Do you really want Ace to die like this? Die Marineford? Luffy returned to the execution platform, he said with a serious look in his eyes. Ace heard this sentence, he also looked at Garp in front of him. Garp fell silent. To be honest, he was really caught by Luffy's words. Do you really want Ace to stain the spot with blood? No, of course not. Garp wants Ace out of here more than anyone. No matter what, he is his own grandson, intergenerational relatives. How can there be an old man who doesn't love his grandson? If Ace really died in front of him, Garp didn't know what would happen to him. DJ. Something he was carrying, let him contradict himself. Dilemma. One is Marine, whom he has been with all his life, and the other is his beloved grandson. Garp was conflicted and stopped in place for a while. I didn't speak for a long time. Look at Garp like this. Luffy knows there's something going on. It's no wonder, AIEG, that Naruto always likes to play tricks. Sometimes, his tricks can stand shoulder to shoulder with thousands of soldiers. See here. He fully revealed his purpose. Old man, I have a way, but it has saved you from the dilemma. Luffy made a suggestion to Garp. Any solution? Garp, who was still in conflict, suddenly heard Luffy's words. He immediately pushed through the clouds and hurriedly asked Luffy. Old man, now your opponent is me. If you put a little water, I don't think it is very difficult to bring Ace out. Luffy said to Garp. You mean? Garp understood Luffy's thoughts at the first time, but soon he became worried again. Luffy, now you are in the hinterland of our Marine, surrounded by Marines. You can't open Ace's seastone handcuffs. You how to get Ace out. Old man, this is not something you need to take care of. I have my own experience. Luffy said with confidence on his face. But, once you bring out Ace, what will Marine do? Garp thought of Marine. There must be a victor in a war. Marine loses and still sits on the dominant position in the sea. It's just a disgrace, but what if Whitebeard and the others lose? Whitebeard must die, and Ace must die too. Old man, are you going to die? Live your life in regrets? Luffy said to Garp. Garp heard the words. Suddenly his eyes widened. Luffy's words awakened the dreamer. Yes, they Marine lost, but only got reviled. But Whitebeard they lost. The consequences could be disastrous. Garp pondered for a few seconds, and soon, he had made a decision. Luffy, beat me. Garp's face was full of dignity. Good. Luffy's arms suddenly spread out, again. His arms were ablaze with flames. Fire fist. With fiery fists, he slammed on Garp's body. Garp's face sunken. Certainly, Luffy didn't use his full strength either. And unsuspecting Garp. Like a kite with a broken string, it smashed into the ruins again. The ruins were shaken, in the expectant eyes of the whole Marineford. Garp didn't even get up from the ground. Their marine is the backbone. Lost. News of Garp's defeat. In a blink of an eye, it spread throughout Marineford. He lost to Luffy again, and it was under the watchful eyes of everyone at the scene in Marineford, live broadcasting to the whole world. He really beat Vice Admiral Garp. No, it's impossible. Vice Admiral Garp is our Marine's strongest hero. How could he lose? Impossible. Absolutely impossible. Everyone on the Marine side's eyes widened. It was like seeing a ghost. Everyone's face was full of horror, and the words, impossible, were almost pasted on their faces. Garp. Even Sengoku growled. Certainly, the reason he yelled wasn't that Garp had lost. 2. At this crucial moment, he actually chose family love. As the Marine Marshal, Sengoku couldn't see it. Garp lost to Luffy on purpose. Really, it is impossible for him to go to the execution block to stop his grandson Luffy. Sengoku closed his eyes in pain. Crucial moment. Give free, release water. Admiral is also doing great acting, and Shichibukai is an unreliable stick. It seems that so many forces have gathered. Actually, there are only a few who are really willing to fight. Sengoku's gaze. He looked in Akainu's direction. The war has been going on for so long, turn out to be. Only he is reliable. Garp. Staff Crane also had mixed feelings. But, she didn't complain about Garp, whether he chooses the general trend or family affection. Garp has his own right to choose. Think about it differently. If you let your children and grandchildren die in front of you. But as an elder, I was indifferent. This is probably worse than dying. 085. Besieged on all sides, one person fights 3 admirals alone. And Luffy here, after defeating Garp, he immediately punches. He punched the execution platform in front of him. Under Luffy's punch, how can this execution platform hold up? It collapsed on the spot. Countless debris fell on the ground, and the ground raised waves of dust, covering the sky and the sun, and no one was seen. Why destroy the execution platform? Ace is wearing seastone handcuffs, and the other end of the handcuffs is connected to the execution platform. Since the handcuffs cannot be opened, simply destroy it together with this execution platform. As expected, when the scaffold was destroyed, in addition to being handcuffed, Ace is also free. Luffy grabs Ace with one hand. Head back in the direction of the Whitebeard pirates. Just take the Ace. Then you're done. Pity. On the way back from Luffy. And this whole Marineford marine block. Quick, stop the Straw Hats from taking Ace. Seeing that Ace was rescued from the execution platform, the Marines panicked. The Colonel, Rear Admiral, Vice Admiral, etc., abandoned their own enemies. He hurriedly ran back in the direction of the execution platform. At the same time, Akainu, Aokiji, Kizaru and 3 other admirals also saw Ace being taken away. Akainu was the first to burst into a rage. Abandoning the green bull in front of him, he attacked Luffy. Although Akainu is decisive, he also has an advantage. That is to put Marine's interests first in everything. He was the first to kill back. Aokiji also frowned. Although he is not very interested in this war, he is the Admiral of Marine after all, and he is all prosperous and all is lost. If Luffy really took Ace away, then their Marine's face will be really discredited. I won't be able to face Sengoku's scolding at that time. Kizaru also put away his lazy attitude. A rare seriousness appeared on his face. He rushed back towards Luffy too. The 3 admirals all aimed at Luffy. All of a sudden, besieged by enemies, besieged on all sides. Luffy is mobbed by everyone in Marine. Sengoku, Crane staff officer, 3 admirals, more than 10 vice admirals, and thousands of Marine soldiers. They suddenly got into trouble. Akainu took the lead and killed Luffy. The means are very cruel. No mercy at all. Behind Akainu, Aokiji, Kizaru are coming. For a while, yellow flashes, magma flames, and thousands of miles of ice all hit Luffy. Although Luffy is now immune to devil fruit abilities. But don't forget, behind him, and this Ace, but the current Ace is powerless at all. The sea stone is still hanging on his body. He has no fighting power now. How could he withstand 3 admirals' attacks? Luffy was forced to step back with Ace. Luffy, put me down. Ace knows he is a liability. He was afraid of hurting Luffy, knowing that Luffy is very strong now if it is because of himself. As a result, Luffy was hit hard. He will definitely feel sorry for it. Not urgent. Face the anxious Ace. Luffy responded unhurriedly. Although 2 fists are hard to beat 4 hands, and these 4 hands are from Marine's top 3, Admiral. Luffy was having a bit of a hard time coping, but he was unflappable. While retreating from the enemy, you are also analyzing the situation in front of you. There are too many Marines around me. There are huge crowds of people, the voices are buzzing, and there is an endless stream. The scene is full of Marines, and the water can't get through. Want to rush out of the encirclement among so many people? No easy task. You have to start step by step, soon. Luffy has a countermeasure. People like Admiral Vice Admiral might not be able to deal with Luffy for a while. But if they deal with the ordinary Marine soldiers below them, it is more than enough for Luffy. Immediately, an incomparable Haki was released from Luffy. This Haki formed a barrier, which enveloped the entire Marineford in an instant. Conqueror's Haki, unleashed from Luffy. Practice your own Conqueror's Haki. Luffy is no longer a day or two, but so far, he has never used it on a real battlefield. Whether it was the Golden Lion at the beginning, or the Sabaody Archipelago where supernovas gathered later. Even against Garp, this Conqueror's Haki was also handled by him to death. Conqueror's Haki? Not good. The moment Luffy cast Conqueror's Haki, a strong oppressive force was released from his body, covering all the Marines on the scene. 0. Seeking flowers, in just one night, plop plop. Throughout Marineford, a large number of Marine soldiers fell to the ground one after another. Realized that it was Conqueror's Haki that Luffy unleashed. In addition to the elite soldiers who passed out on the spot, a large number of Marine soldiers began to fight. Among Marineford, these soldiers are elite Marines. Everyone is determined. If it is an ordinary Conqueror's Haki, I am afraid it will not achieve such an effect. But don't forget, Luffy's Conqueror's Haki, which has been developed by him to the point of awakening. Just these elite Marine soldiers in front of them can't hold on to the Conqueror's Haki unleashed by Luffy. Only Rear Admiral, Vice Admiral, and those very talented soldiers who are Marine soldiers can stand. 0. But even standing, they also had cold sweat on their foreheads. Sweating profusely, soaking clothes. Look at the mass of fallen soldiers. Sengoku, Akainu and others' faces sank. Luffy dealt with so many Marine soldiers in front of them. What does he want to do next? Soon, Luffy gave the answer. He put Ace down. Don't retreat but advance. He rushed towards the 3 admirals in front of him. Boom. Luffy went into 4th gear, and in 4th gear, his speed climbed steadily. Cooperate with the ability to be immune to Devil Fruit. Luffy for a moment actually fought 3 admirals in a row. Not only that, his stored energy exploded, and he dispatched with all his strength. The 3 admirals couldn't resist for a while, and they were forced back by him. Whether it's lava, flash, or freezing, Luffy is invulnerable. The 3 of them also looked shocked. How did Luffy ignore all of their attacks? Akainu, the yellow ape is okay, at least I've seen it before. But it's the first time seeing Aokiji. He was overwhelmed by Luffy's methods. Desperate to survive, Luffy chose to put all his eggs in one basket. 3 people worked together. On the contrary, he was defeated by Luffy. Such a jaw-dropping scene. That's Marine's 3 admirals. Marine's highest combat power. Everyone in the Whitebeard Pirates was shocked by Luffy's move. Righteous. Open black lens bracket 086 close black lens bracket Whitebeard ends. The future era is called Luffy. When they saw Luffy alone, they forced Marine and Admiral back. How can Akainu, one of the 3 admirals, endure? He flew into a rage. Meteor Volcano. With all his strength, he directly exploded his charged attack. The sky full of magma bombarded Luffy. Luffy's eyes sparkled. God's Void Vision was also activated by him. Meteor Volcano. Luffy also uses Meteor Volcano's abilities. The magma from both sides collided together. The lava was scattered towards the ground. To know. There are now large groups of Marine soldiers stunned by Luffy Conqueror's Haki on the ground. Although these lavas are not strong, if they are allowed to stick to these Marine soldiers. If you don't die, you have to be disabled. Ice wall. Just when the magma was about to fall on the ground of 210, Aokiji made a move, creating an ice wall. Keep all magma out. At the same time, Kizaru also makes a shot. 8-foot Chonguyu. Kizaru's sparkling fruit ability also hit Luffy. On the left is Akainu's Meteor Volcano, and on the right is Kizaru's 8-foot Chonguyu. Both are the special skills of the 2 admirals. Luffy faces these powerful abilities. He doesn't stop at all. Let these abilities fall on yourself. At the same time, 8-foot Chonguyu, Meteor Volcano. Luffy copied their abilities directly and bombarded them in the opposite direction. Bang bang bang. Boom boom boom. A large area was bombed at the scene. Akainu and Kizaru made a careless move and were hit by Luffy. Immediately, they are out of balance. One after the other they flew upside down. This moment, Luffy disappeared in a flash. He came before the last Admiral Aokiji. Luffy punched him. Aokiji hastened to fight with his abilities, and 10 layers of ice shields were deployed by him. It's a pity that these 10 layers of ice shields, no matter how hard they are still not enough to look at. Under one punch, all 10 ice shields were broken by Luffy. Aokiji uses his frozen fruit's powerful ability, trying to restrain Luffy. Can't you see it yet? It's useless, Luffy said calmly. Next second, he also sent Aokiji flying with one punch. Even the combination of 3 admirals is not Luffy's opponent. One man is against 3 admirals, it's alright if they don't lose the wind, and even defeated them one by one. Notice. Before that, Luffy was besieged by Marine, besieged on all sides. It can be said that John Lang's talent is exhausted. Even those Marines at the scene thought that under the siege of so many of them, no matter how strong Luffy is, he's just a bird in a cage, he can't escape with his wings. But this result surprised the whole Marineford. The countless Marines led by 3 admirals couldn't stop Luffy's pace. First, open the Conqueror's Haki to stun a large piece of Marine. And the 3 admirals who were facing the siege behind took the initiative to rush forward. Don't retreat but advance, put it to death and survive. This decisive battle not only solved his crisis, but even revitalized the situation. The Marine soldiers, who were already scarred, have been dealt with completely under Luffy's Conqueror's Haki. If you say before, Marine has lost a lot of strength, but still has the power to fight. Can now, they don't even have the strength to fight. How many Marines are still standing? A few Vice Admirals, a few Rear Admirals, a few Colonels, and a few capable Marine soldiers. Even if they can stand, their combat power is not as good as before. Especially when the 3 admirals also lost. Marines don't have much combat power anymore. The Whitebeard pirates sighed when seeing Luffy surrounded by enemies on all sides. At that time, they are also extremely worried. Admiral is Admiral after all. The 3 admirals went out together. Not only did they not move to Luffy, but they were bulldozed by Luffy. Marco, Jose, Beasta, Yizang and many other captains were dumbfounded by shock. Zuozu stayed where he was for a long time without speaking. Even Whitebeard, more than gasped. How sharp his eyes were. In addition to using those magma, freezing, sparkling fruit and other abilities, Luffy even ignored those devil fruit abilities on the spot. On this Straw Hat Luffy's body, how many secrets are hidden? Actually, Whitebeard was suddenly a little thankful too. Don't say anything else, it's Luffy's ability to defeat Marine 3 Admiral. If he was on the side of their Marine, then their Whitebeard pirates would definitely die. This is a person who can affect the balance of war. It is very difficult to lose with him. Simply Ace and Luffy are related, otherwise, the consequences are really unimaginable. Except for the White Group. Those around the world who were watching the live broadcast were also amazed by Luffy's move. Did all 3 admirals lose? That is the Marine that made countless pirates fearful? The strength is strong and deeply rooted in the hearts of the people. Now that the 3 of them joined forces, they were actually defeated by Luffy. How can it be? This is simply not possible. Those who supported Marine were all pale and dull, and the 3 admirals couldn't stop Luffy from taking Ace away. Anyone with a discerning eye will come out by chance. Lost. Marine is losing. This war has already had a result. And those pirates applauded. Although they have nothing to do with Bai Tuan, don't forget that an enemy's enemy is a friend. At this point, they have a common enemy, that's Marine. 0.9 sees Marine deflated. These people are somehow very informative. Ecstatic. Some people even danced with excitement. After today's battle, I believe most of you remember a name, Luffy, the captain of the Straw Hat Pirates. The man who was offered a reward of 2 billion by Marine. In the first half of the Grand Line, it has the highest reward in the world. At this point, even when Roger and Whitebeard were young, they never achieved it. Since Roger's gone, Whitebeard's years are coming to an end. There is no replacement for their time. Isn't this a kind of sadness? Nowadays, the replacement has arrived. His name is Luffy. The Age of the Future, also named Luffy. Open black lens bracket 087 close black lens bracket. The strength is so strong that one person can reverse the Summit War. In all eyes, Luffy defeated the 3 admirals. This one-on-one matchup where Admiral didn't lose, and even got the upper hand, was really shocking. After all, San Admiral's reputation is here. Not to mention other Marine soldiers, prisoners, and Shichibukai, even people close to Luffy, such as Nami, Robin, Zoro, Usopp, etc., were surprised from ear to ear. And as the captain of the Whitebeard pirates, Whitebeard couldn't help but stare deeply at Luffy. Then he let out a sigh of regret. He also had to admit it. Luffy is so strong, certainly. Here's what other people think. For Luffy, he knows best that the combined 3 admirals can be defeated. He was just opportunistic. How you said that? The reason is that when Luffy rescued the prisoners and impelled down, the 3 admirals had already fought with Whitebeard and the others. In other words, they've been fighting intensely with the Whitebeard pirates. So that the physical loss was so fast that even Aokiji was injured by Whitebeard. This is one of them. When Luffy reached the top of the 08 War, the others followed suit. Just say Green Bull, he was the first to find Akainu. The two collided on the spot. What is the strength of Green Bull? If Akainu doesn't use some tricks, he won't get any benefit from the Green Bull at all. And bullet, and a smile and more. All in all, this is the second point where 3 admirals are consumed again. Until now, when the 3 admirals unite to besiege Luffy, it has reached the point of lingering, the end of the battle. Luffy took Shondo. In addition to recovering his strength,
He also has the ability to be immune to extreme bugs such as devil fruit, specifically targeting Admirals' devil fruit.
Cooperate with your own strength, not to mention 3 Admirals. Even if you do it again, neither is Luffy's match. This is Luffy's confidence, it is also a symbol of his ability. But then again, there are 3 in Admiral, there is a physical powerhouse like Garp. Then it's not Luffy's turn to be so arrogant. For those who are strong in pure physical skills, the oppressive power given to Luffy will be greatly improved. Pity. They do not. Luffy brings up Ace. He returns step by step in the direction of the Whitebeard pirates. Some vice admirals gritted their teeth, and they immediately wanted to fight back against Luffy. After all, Luffy has an ace in his hand. Once Ace returns to the Whitebeard pirates, then there is no way for them Marine to execute him.
You can't let Straw Hat leave here, and you can't let Ace leave here. Quick, go stop him. Damn, fight with Luffy the Straw Hat. But just when the vice admirals were about to counterattack,
one hand suppressed their eagerness to move. The vice admirals looked at whoever stood in their way.
Immediately afterwards, each of them said solemnly, Master Marshal.
Good. The man who stopped them was Marshal Sengoku. Stop making unnecessary sacrifices. Sengoku's solemn voice filled their ears. Everyone looked up. He looked at Luffy in the straw hat, and then at his marshal in front of him. He hesitated for a while. They still stopped. Sengoku didn't want to stop Luffy. But look at the scene. 3 admirals had already been driven into the ruins by him, and there were so many Marine soldiers who fell in Marineford.
There are very few people they can fight. In contrast to Luffy, there are no big or small injuries on his body, and his strength is still alive, although I don't know how Luffy kept fighting for a long time. But one thing is certain. If they are rushing, undoubtedly looking for death. Waste of manpower. Without any choice, Sengoku can only choose to accept his fate.
Let Luffy leave with Ace. Watching Luffy slowly step by step back in the direction of the Whitebeard pirates.
Sengoku has a deep sense of frustration. This is all his life.
A scene that has never been seen before. Luffy's strength. It has become so powerful that one person can reverse the situation of this summit war. Unlike Whitebeard. Whitebeard is late, Luffy is in full bloom. I wanted to take advantage of Whitebeard's twilight to bury this era that belonged to him. Let Marine occupy the commanding heights of the age of great navigation. Then end the age of sailing that Roger started. Unexpectedly, the middle way ran. Not only did it not meet the original expectations, but it also made Luffy. Sengoku is also clear. Watch Luffy rising. A new era is about to begin. A new era is at hand. This is something that their Marines can't do anything about.
His name is Luffy. Luffy didn't walk very fast, but returned slowly with Ace in his hand.
Luffy, I thought your strength had just improved a lot, but I didn't expect your strength to be so powerful.
Ace said to Luffy in shock. When it was just under siege. He's still worried about Luffy. Worried about his defeat. Worried that 997 might end up with him. I was even more worried about whether he would be killed on the spot when he was besieged by Marine.
But the strength shown by Luffy, he was so shocked that his jaw dropped to the ground.
3 Admirals' strength. Ace has a deep understanding.
Luffy just beat one. That was a siege by 3 people. This, if you don't see it with your own eyes. Ace couldn't believe what he saw. Yeah, if Blackbeard was standing in front of me, I'd punch him so hard he couldn't find him. Punch him so hard he wouldn't know his mother. Luffy said with a deep smile. This. Ace paused, and then he showed a strange look. Luffy, can you not mention this matter?
Lost to Blackbeard. It was even given to Marine as an item by Blackbeard, and exchanged for the title of 7 Warlords of the Sea.
This has always been a knot in Ace's heart. It's his heart disease. Now Luffy brings it up again and again. This made Ace very uncomfortable. Do you know the shame? Just know it, and improve your strength as soon as you go back. Your aptitude is not bad, work hard, and it will be no problem to reach the level of Admiral in the future. Luffy said with a tone of lesson. 088, rescue Ace, and stand on an equal footing with 4 emperors. You're right. Hearing Luffy's words, Ace also nodded. Indeed, you must improve your strength, otherwise. Their Whitebeard pirates would not have suffered such a catastrophe. However, the next second, Ace was stunned, and he said to Luffy. I didn't even realize it, why are you teaching me? Don't forget, I am older than you, and I am your elder brother. Of course I'm teaching you a lesson. Do you know the feeling of hating iron but not steel? It doesn't matter how old you are. Age is not a problem. If you know your mistakes, you can improve it. You, an older brother, don't even realize it. In my opinion, we two it's time to change positions, I'll be this brother. Luffy said old-fashioned, when I heard Luffy bluntly say that the positions of the 2 of them should be changed. Ace was speechless immediately, but looked at Luffy in surprise. There is one thing to say. His words, it makes sense. At least. Ace had never heard of it before, while the 2 were chatting. They soon returned to the Whitebeard pirates, after Ace was brought out. The whole Whitebeard pirates are excited, countless people surrounded him. They looked at Ace happily, and their words were full of excitement. Ace, are you okay? Marco asked worriedly. I'm fine. Ace replied. Ace. Others also came forward. They are all one big family. Otherwise, I wouldn't risk rushing to Marineford. I'm sorry, I've hurt everyone, Ace said with a guilty look. If not for him, there would be no summit war this time. They Whitebeard pirates have suffered so many casualties. It's none of your business. It's not just a matter of a day or two for Marine to target us. This time it's just a fuse. Whitebeard also came out from the crowd, and he spoke earnestly to Ace. Everyone talked in detail again. You say a word and I say a word. Everyone brings joy. Then, they all looked at Luffy. What it comes down to, because of him Luffy Ace can see the light of day again and return to their Whitebeard pirates. Thank you, Luffy. Whitebeard also thanked Luffy himself. Thank you, Luffy. The other captains also expressed their thanks. Ace has been brought out, what should you do next? Luffy asked, looking at Whitebeard. In this war, our ultimate goal is to rescue Ace. For this, too many people have died. Whitebeard spoke earnestly. There are 15,000 of them, and now there are less than 5,000 left. Lost nearly 2/3, if it wasn't for the jelly beans that Luffy gave them. These 5,000 people lost even more. This loss, it is too much. They, the Whitebeard pirates, were almost overwhelmed and destroyed. Watching the sons fight to the end, Whitebeard was heartbroken. To this end, Whitebeard is no longer burying himself once or twice. Retreat. In the end, Whitebeard made such a decision. Hearing the words of the other team leaders, they also wished to have Marine cramp. But they are all discerning people and they can all see it. Even though a large number of Marines on the scene have fallen, the 3 Admirals and Shichibukai still have the strength to fight. On the periphery, there are more than 200 warships still alive. They were well armed and outnumbered, if the two sides really want to hold on to the end now. I'm afraid the damage will be even more serious. Whitebeard had to think about his sons. It's something Whitebeard would never want to see in his sons dying. Besides, although they are the head of the 4 emperors, Whitebeard is known as the strongest man in the world. But, is their enemy only Marine? Of course not. Kaido, Ant, who among the 4 emperors is not eyeing it? Doflamingo, the other pirates in New World, even some superstar newcomers regard their Whitebeard pirates as enemies. These potential threats cannot be ignored, today. Once all the Whitebeard pirates are here, then they will win. In the end, it was nothing more than 4 emperors with a real name. The wind blows. Their band of pirates broke up, can't stand the wind and waves. It is imperative. We must preserve our strength to prepare for all kinds of strong winds and waves in the future. Backquote, forget it, Ace has been rescued by us, let's retreat. Marco also knows the difficulties of the Whitebeard pirates now, and he agrees with Dad. Father, we are willing to retreat with you, the captains agreed unanimously. Good. Seeing his sons understand his difficulties so much, Whitebeard nodded in relief, and he looked at Luffy. Luffy, what are you going to do? Huh? Ask me why? Luffy paused, he didn't understand what Whitebeard meant. Gu la la la, Whitebeard laughed. Having experienced all kinds of things, he could see Luffy's current appearance at a glance. He explained. Luffy boy, haven't you seen it yet? You defeated Garp, forced back the 3 Admirals, and defeated so many Marine, soldiers, and your strength is even more outstanding. If Marine is one faction and Whitebeard is one faction, then you Luffy boy is another faction. Now you are on an equal footing with us in Marine. Sit on an equal footing. Luffy seemed to understand a little bit what he meant. Whitebeard went on to say, and don't forget, under your command, there are the Straw Hat Pirates and tens of thousands of prisoners. These people are all extraordinary and Marine is afraid of you. Don't you have the qualifications? Are you on an equal footing with us? Even I have to ask your attitude? Ah. Luffy was instantly amused. Indeed. As far as his own strength is concerned, there are such a large group of invincible younger brothers. Which of them dared to underestimate, even Whitebeard? You should also ask for your own opinion. Open black lens bracket 089 close black lens bracket. Why does this Whitebeard still have peak fighting power? Luffy also understands the current situation of the Whitebeard pirates. This battle in Marineford really can't last any longer. If you are consuming, the main force of their Whitebeard pirates will be exhausted. What will be the consequences? Luffy knows that too. New World still has huge challenges waiting for them Whitebeard pirates. So, it makes sense that Whitebeard chose to retreat. Now that Whitebeard has deliberately wanted to retreat, Luffy didn't mind leaving here either, after all. The war here has lasted long enough, go on like this. He is also worried about Zoro, Nami and the others. These own crews, nothing can happen, certainly. This is the first point. The second point is from my old man Garp. Garp has put so much water, and, in this Marine Garp is also a lifetime of allegiance. For Ace's sake, he might back down, but if it threatens Marine's dignity, Garp will never budge, because of Garp. Luffy didn't make things difficult for Marine either. 913. Okay, Ace has been brought out, we really should get out of here. Luffy responded to Whitebeard. Gu la la la, Whitebeard nodded. That's good. Finished. He stepped forward, came to the forefront of the Whitebeard pirates. He faced Sengoku in the distance, and Sengoku at this time was also staring at Whitebeard. The four eyes are facing each other, fierce sparks blazed through the air. Whitebeard said, Sengoku, you have already lost. If I join forces with Luffy now, your Marineford should be crushed by us. Sengoku gritted his teeth. His whole body was full of anger, emitting blue smoke. But soon, Sengoku stopped again. Whitebeard is right, Marine is now at the end of its rope. If Whitebeard and Luffy join forces, the Marineford will really be crushed by each other. Once Marineford was leveled, then he, Sengoku, is the first Marine Marshal whose headquarters has been breached by pirates in history. Notoriety. All over the world. Really? Then you can go and level me Marineford? Sengoku said angrily. Do you think I dare not? Whitebeard said coldly. Because of eating the fairy beans, his physical strength and injuries have almost recovered. Even the tone of voice is powerful, as soon as this word came out. Haki is leaking, release it, and suppress the audience. Sengoku suddenly felt great pressure, he was also very guilty. Whitebeard was going to really want to do it, they're really going to be leveled here. Then you can come here. Just when Sengoku felt the doubled pressure, the three admirals who were beaten by Luffy also walked behind Sengoku one after another. Shichibukai are now also standing in line one after another. They came to Sengoku's rear. At the same time, other vice admirals also joined in. 3 admirals, Shichibukai, many vice admirals, giant vice admirals, etc. The fierce momentum of the two sides collided, instantly. The whole Marineford has once again become hard to find and unpredictable. They are Marine, even if it was severely injured. Still have the power to fight, pity. Face this so-called power of the first battle. Whitebeard suddenly crouched down, at the same time. Above the fist, there were bursts of white light. This is the standard casting action for shock fruit. Then, air shock, Whitebeard landed with a punch. Above his fist, intense white light was continuously released. Crunch. There were bursts of tearing sounds in the air. Smash the void, rush to the sky, and shock the sky. Boom. A violent shockwave hit AIEC, Sengoku's feet directly. All of a sudden, Marineford was shocked. The ground shook, the ground tore apart, and a huge abyss appeared in front of everyone. This is the ultimate destructive power from shock fruit. This destructive force descended on the scene throughout Marineford. And the 3 admirals, Shichibukai, and many vice admirals were scattered by Whitebeard's punch. Everyone is ashamed. Even Sengoku was affected, after stabilizing his body. Impossible, this moment, even Sengoku was startled. To know. Before that, Whitebeard, who had been jointly attacked by their 3 admirals, had become a dead end, dying. They were even severely injured by Akainu. It is absolutely impossible for him to still have such a strong power. But the problem is, why is Whitebeard able to display such a powerful strength? Could it be everything I saw before? Was he doing it on purpose? Wrong. That was definitely not something he did on purpose. To know. Once the 2 admirals work together, they can completely overthrow a 4 emperors. What's more, at that time, the 3 admirals joined forces to attack. Even Whitebeard is good. Does he dare to show off such behavior in front of the 3 admirals? But, if it wasn't for the show, then how did he manage to explode into such a terrifying combat power? Let alone Sengoku. 3 admiral inside, Akainu, Aokiji, and Kizaru all looked down. They were also affected by Whitebeard's peak power. Why, hasn't the tower Whitebeard already been battered? Half of his beard was beaten off. How do you still have the physical strength to display shock fruit? This doubt, it also quickly imprinted in the minds of many Shichibukai people. Everyone thinks it's impossible. Everyone thinks the Arabian Nights. Compared to their horror, the Whitebeard pirates sighed. The corners of everyone's mouths suddenly smiled unconsciously. They who have eaten fairy beans, they all know the benefits this bean brings to them. Not to mention where Luffy got his magic beans, but just judging from the dumbfounded look of the people on the marine side. They were already shocked from ear to ear by Whitebeard's methods of peak combat power. Estimated. This group of marines have already doubted life at this moment. Ha 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 ha. Quite a few captains and members of the white group were complacent. Looking at this group of marines, they looked dumbfounded. Every crew member felt a bad breath in their hearts. Everyone's faces showed the appearance of being a villain and being complacent. Good. They're villains. The more they see marine deflated, the happier they feel. Open black lens bracket 090 close black lens bracket. The summer war is over, and a new era is about to begin. After one blow, Whitebeard stood up and stared at Sengoku with deep eyes. Why, do you think I can't level Marineford? Sengoku's pupils constricted. I feel very uncomfortable. First timing. His eyes turned towards Luffy, in the past. Perhaps. Others don't know what it is, but as the marshal, Sengoku is very clear. At first. At the time of the supernova event, Luffy chased Admiral all the way to Ma Linfondo. He once saw with his own eyes that Luffy delivered a bean to Garp's mouth. Then Garp jumped up from the spot. Lively, no doubt. The reason why Whitebeard will return to peak combat effectiveness. It is because of this bean that Luffy gifted him. Straw Hat Luffy. Straw Hat Luffy. Straw Hat Luffy. It's you, and it's you F King, Sengoku wanted to swear. I can't wait to pick up Luffy's ear, point at his nose and yell. If it is someone else. Sengoku didn't pay attention to restoring peak fighting power. But this man is Whitebeard. They are Marine's most feared enemies. Sengoku gritted his teeth, grimaced, and did not answer Whitebeard's words. Sons, prepare to attack Marineford, Whitebeard greeted. Drink. The captains and their crews were full of fighting spirit. Watching Whitebeard actually prepare to attack with the crew himself. Sengoku directly felt the great pressure. He looks around. The 3 admirals are already scarred, the Shichibukai are not listening to the command, and the vice admirals are obviously weak. They Marine seems to have a fighting power, but in fact, most of them are strengths on paper. Facing a peak powerhouse like Whitebeard, it's not bad anymore. Slow. Sengoku snapped at Whitebeard. What, do you regret it? Whitebeard said coldly. Ace has been taken away by you. Almost all of my 150,000 Marines have been lost. Even our Marine executives are hard-pressed to fight. Whitebeard, your goal has been achieved. How can you retreat? Sengoku spoke calmly to Whitebeard. Why should I retreat? Whitebeard responded, and asked a question as if he didn't know anything. Just tell me what kind of conditions you want, however. Sengoku just snorted coldly. Ace had already been rescued by him. There was no reason why he wouldn't withdraw. Sengoku, you are as sharp as ever. When Whitebeard heard this, he knew immediately that this was no longer enough to scare Sengoku. After all, they have been rivals for many years, if it weren't for Luffy's amazing army. They were really eaten by Sengoku from the beginning to the end, and they had no strength to turn around. Marine lost though, but Sengoku didn't lose at all. This is what Whitebeard admires most about Sengoku. Old rules, cede land and pay compensation. I want your Marine's territory in New World's G5 Marine branch, 10 billion Baileys to compensate my sons, and a treaty that never violate my Whitebeard pirates, never hurt my sons. Whitebeard spoke out about his request. A fool's dream. Sengoku took the case. He was full of rage, his eyes full of anger stared at Whitebeard viciously. He couldn't see that Whitebeard wanted to force Marine to surrender and pay compensation. Needless to say, the site of the New World G5 Marine branch. That's the only foundation of their Marine in New World. 10 billion Baileys. What a joke. The Whitebeard pirates need pension money. What should the 150,000 people in Marine do? As for the last one. Where there are people, there are rivers and lakes. Marines and pirates have always been opposites. It is simply impossible to have no contradiction at all. This moment, except for Sengoku, even the 3 admirals, the other vice admirals became angry. Since you don't agree, I'll just have to crush this Marineford, sons. Whitebeard made a big move. The captain and the crew behind him immediately gathered together. Sengoku looked at Whitebeard. Is the other party trying to show that there is no room for negotiation? I won't give you the G5 Marine branch. I can give you an additional 1 billion pension, the last treaty. I promise you so it doesn't matter. Haki, feeling Whitebeard's release, looks at the devastated naval headquarters. They really have nothing against Whitebeard, to this end.
Sengoku can only choose to compromise. 1 billion Baileys. Are you dismissing beggars? Since there is no sincerity without you, then exchange it with Marineford.
Whitebeard was aggressive. E+Z, Sengoku's teeth had been crushed, and a mouthful of blood came out of the bite. 10 billion. 5 billion. 10 billion. The two sides argued endlessly. Eventually Whitebeard lost patience too. With one punch, the base of their headquarters has been tilted by Whitebeard, and he is about to level Marineford. 0. Seeking flowers. Simply, at the last minute. Sengoku was forced to choose a compromise. All 3 requests made by Whitebeard were agreed. After getting the consent of Sengoku, Whitebeard just gave up. Sons, turn around, take our brother's body away, retreat. During the conversation, many captains and the crew quickly came to the top of the battlefield and began to collect the corpses. Countless dead Whitebeard crew members were taken away. Whitebeard commanded the helmsman to withdraw the troops. As for the frozen sea level, Whitebeard shattered the ice with one punch. Sengoku, we will meet later. While Whitebeard was retreating, Luffy also came to the prisoners. Compared to the Whitebeard pirates, for the prisoners, the casualties were smaller. Except for individual prisoners who died, the others were only slightly injured. Luffy also had dead prisoners taken away. After all, he was the one who helped him fight. Giving them a place to bury is the last thing Luffy can do. Luffy, Whitebeard is retreating, what about us? Ivankov came to Luffy's side and asked, retreat. Luffy waved. When I came, I took 20 warships. When returning, they also took 2 warships. After the Whitebeard pirates and the Straw Hat pirates have retreated one after another. Since then, the Summit War ended with Marine's defeat. Sengoku sits in the middle of Marineford, the dying years. Makes him look very bleak. The other Marine soldiers also sat down on the ground. Obviously it's a war. They seem to have passed a century. The time is very long, this battle. Marines suffered particularly heavy casualties. The casualties of the Whitebeard pirates were also very miserable. Sure enough, I applied for that sentence. There are no winners in war, only losers. Whether it is Marine or Baitwan, both sides lost. Lost badly, each other has become a speck of dust under the wheel of history. What will happen to this sea from now on? What kind of impact will the Summit War have on this era of great exploration? At this point, not yet known, and Luffy, his voyage continued. The mission of the Straw Hat Pirates is not over either. Death. Open black lens bracket 091 close black lens bracket. The goal is to flatten the 4 emperors and achieve the last One Piece throne. At the same time, beyond the gates of justice, the Whitebeard pirates stopped. Moby Dick's ship. Whitebeard turned around slowly, looking at the 20 warships behind him. The 20 warships led by Luffy are also slowly approaching. Luffy, thank you very much for saving my pirates this time. Whitebeard shouted from the bow. Thank you so many times in a row, this doesn't seem to be the Whitebeard pirates in my impression. Luffy replied, to be honest, if it weren't for you, I'm afraid our Whitebeard pirates might not have been able to leave Marineford. Your behavior deserves my thanks. Whitebeard replied, yes, the other captains stood behind Whitebeard and chimed in. Luffy. Ace also looked at Luffy with sincere eyes. That's good, I will accept your thanks, Luffy said frankly. Luffy, your current strength is already very strong, what is your future goal?
Whitebeard asked with that question. Me, play as a One Piece first.
Luffy has now become interested in this One Piece throne. When? Be a One Piece. Just play. When the captains heard this sentence, people such as Marco, Joes, Vista and others looked at each other. From each other's eyes, they saw it blankly. Why? Listen. Is this human speaking? Play as a pirate king. The One Piece, 443, which is obviously sought after by countless people, is even the era of great voyage dedicated by the previous One Piece Roger with his life. It should be supreme, admired by all, sacrosanct. It ended up here with Luffy, it has become worthless. This. Don't say it's the captain. Even Whitebeard was stunned for a moment. A long time. Whitebeard grumbled, he looked at Luffy and said, your ambition is good, you have such strength in the first half of the Grand Line, and you have even surpassed me by accomplishing such an achievement. I am really optimistic about you. To be honest, I have noticed you as early as when I learned that you sent Golden Lion back to impel down. Even at that time, I was still thinking about whether to find a captain and draw you into my pirate group. Whitebeard said bluntly, said that he had such an idea at the beginning. Indeed, Whitebeard is tempted, a powerhouse like Luffy. Not to mention Whitebeard, even Kaido, Big Mom, etc. will be very tempted. Who doesn't want to add another general to their pirate group? You want me to join your Whitebeard pirates? Luffy's eyes were crystal clear. As soon as this word came out, Zoro, Usopp, Nami and others also raised their heads one after another. They looked over at Luffy, after sailing on the Grand Line. They also know what is called Shichibukai and what is called 4 Emperors. That is the existence of King's Landing, the supreme powerhouse in New World. The Whitebeard pirates, the 4 Emperors of New World, the strongest man in the world, these titles are gathered in one body. Especially when their captain Whitebeard himself spoke. Trying to win over Luffy. Who can stand this? Luffy, does he agree or not? It's all said and done, then there is nothing to hide anymore. Whitebeard's curly beard twitched, and he looked at Luffy with an unprecedented seriousness in his eyes. Luffy, the captain of the Straw Hat Pirates, I am now inviting you as the captain of the Whitebeard Pirates. Are you willing to join my Whitebeard Pirates? Willing to shoulder my Whitebeard mission, to become famous in the sea, to stir up the entire Grand Line? How about subverting the whole world? As soon as the bold words came out, Whitebeard's natural haki suddenly spread out. There are 20 marine warships covering this front. In addition to Luffy, Green Bull, Yishao and other strong players. Those prisoners, after seeing Whitebeard dominate the world. There is even a feeling that I can't help but want to worship him and want to promise him. Each other's breath. They all started to hurry up. Luffy, will he say yes, agree, or refuse? It stands to reason. Whitebeard pulled his face off himself, he has no reason to refuse. The prisoners looked at each other, in the early years. They have heard about how strong Whitebeard is, how terrifying his strength is, how important he is in New World, how he is a man standing on the ceiling, and so on. Now, they are truly aware of it. Good guy. Even the invitation to the crew is so haki sideways. After saying this sentence, Whitebeard took a step forward. Stretched out his giant hand, facing Luffy with a smile on his lips. Whitebeard, the strongest man in the world, uttered those iconic words. Luffy, be my son, appeared. Whitebeard's most classic picture of receiving his son. The prisoners jumped up one by one. Now they can't wait to replace Luffy and agree to join the Whitebeard Pirates. Join the Whitebeard Pirates. What a great honor this is. Many pirates couldn't squeeze their heads into the Whitebeard pirates. That's the beauty of the Whitebeard pirates, nowadays. As long as Luffy agrees, then he is a member of the Whitebeard pirates. If the prisoners before were just short of breath, now they are almost crazy. However, compared to the excited prisoner behind him, Luffy is extremely calm. Beginning of period. After hearing Whitebeard's offer, Luffy was interested. But suddenly, I heard the phrase, "Be my son." A few black lines fell from Luffy's forehead, at the same time. I raised my middle finger silently in my heart, silly bee. Ace also strikes while the iron is hot. Luffy, join the Whitebeard pirates, join in, we can never be separated from now on, kiss more kisses. Kiss more? God's kiss is more kissing, I will add you uncle. As for the so-called non-separation, are you a woman? If you are a woman, it doesn't matter to Luffy if you don't separate. It's a pity you're a man. Luffy is not as good as Long Yong. Think here. He waved his hand and said indifferently, I'm sorry, I may disappoint you, I don't have a habit of recognizing a father. Here Luffy refused. Ace is a little anxious, even the prisoners are very anxious. Luffy continued. Okay, you don't need to talk anymore, I don't intend to join the Whitebeard pirates, but you, Edward Newgate, wash your ass and wait for me in New World, before I bring my Straw Hat pirates when the regiment descends on New World, it is destined to be a bloodbath in New World. At that time, even your Whitebeard pirates will not be spared. Those of you who have just experienced the Summit War will already be at the bottom of the Four Emperors level. You will have to survive this storm, but don't get buried in the tsunami. With a confident smile, not only did Luffy not choose to join the Whitebeard pirates, he also uttered harsh words. Let Whitebeard wash his ass and wait. Is this bluntly challenging them to the Whitebeard pirates? Right. In the past, when those supernovas landed in the New World, which one was not proud, and specially asked the Four Emperors to challenge them? Hiss, hear what Luffy said. The prisoners' eyes widened. He actually declared war on Whitebeard. They all know that Luffy is very powerful, but they don't know who Luffy is. Being held and impelled down after all, information is blocked. Don't know what happened outside, all they know now is that Luffy wants to challenge Whitebeard. Same. On Captain Fan's side, Marco, Ace and the others were also shocked by Luffy's unbelievable Chinese words. This Summit War has just passed. Did Luffy just declare war on them? This Nima must have a big appetite, just swallow Marineford's marine. Now they want to swallow their Whitebeard pirates. Ace stole a glance at Whitebeard. He didn't want Whitebeard and Luffy to turn against each other. It's in the middle after all, neither side pleases. Obvious. Ace underestimated Whitebeard, gu la la la. Hearing that Luffy refused, and then declared war on himself, Whitebeard smiled heroically. Good boy, with ambition, no wonder you dare to ignore the throne of One Piece. I will always remember this Summit War thing, Whitebeard, if you really landed in New World. I'm just waiting for you to challenge me in New World, so why not? At that time, if you are defeated, don't cry and ask to join my Whitebeard pirates. Of course, if you really give up your face and join my Whitebeard pirates, I don't mind being your safe haven. Then just wait and see. Luffy looked at Whitebeard calmly and said Zero. Luffy, let's part ways here, I return to my New World, and you? Where are you going? Whitebeard asked. Saboti Archipelago, Luffy replied. His Thousand Sunny, still parked in Saboti Archipelago. Leave it alone. Whitebeard led the captain and said. Farewell. Luffy returns to the Saboti Archipelago with 20 warships. Since then, the two top forces are thus separated. Watching Luffy lead the 20 warships farther and farther, Ace walked to Whitebeard's side and said, Dad, don't be angry, my younger brother has such a personality. He's still worried that Luffy just pissed off Whitebeard or something by talking about trying to eat them as well as the Whitebeard pirates. Whitebeard glanced at Ace. Ace, you are thinking too much. My invitation just now is just to test out what kind of ambition this Luffy has. If he is really willing to join my pirate team, then I will be very disappointed. Disappointment? Ace is a little confused. However, I really didn't expect that he would actually want to challenge us. To challenge us is to challenge the Four Emperors. This guy Luffy wants to challenge the Four Emperors one by one. Fight over, and finally achieve the throne of the Pirate King. Ha ha ha, this Luffy boy is so funny. Ace, you know, I also want to push you to the position of One Piece. After all, I was worried before, Roger. There is no successor, but now there is no need. A person who is stronger than Roger when he was young has appeared. Talking. Whitebeard stared deeply in the direction Luffy was leaving. I'm really looking forward to how big a storm your younger brother can stir up in this grand line. Perhaps, he can overthrow the Marijoy gang. Young, the road to the future is at least longer than my old bones. Whitebeard is looking forward to what Luffy will achieve in the future. The other side. The Summit War is over. The Whitebeard pirates and the Straw Hat pirates dominated the Summit War, and at the same time rescued Ace, the captain of the second team of the Whitebeard pirates. This result is a bit difficult for countless people to accept. Marine, who was given a high expectation of 1.0 by countless people, lost. A large number of people on the civilian side were silent. They were silent, After all, still Marine lost. 150,000 Marine, none of the top forces in Marineford could stop Whitebeard's pace. The power of pirates, this age of great voyages. Did it fail to stifle success after all? Well, many people sighed. Emotions hit rock bottom, and those pirates who were optimistic about the Whitebeard pirates danced excitedly. The arrogant and condescending smile on his face became more and more intense. Is this Marine? Is this the Marine who has dominated the sea all year round and has more than 800 years of experience? Has been suppressed by Marine all the time. Now I see the downcast appearance of Marine. Many people take pleasure in other people's misfortune. It seems. Marine was nothing to fear either, but that's all. Beyond the north. That day. Summit War ended, news of Marine's defeat. Take the media of newspapers, spread throughout the world. For a while. The first half of the Grand Line, the second half of the Grand Line, East Blue, West Blue, South Blue, North Blue and other major sea areas. Water capital, Dressrosa, Sabaody Archipelago and other important islands. A sky full of newspapers fell from the sky, sprinkle on the ground. The cobblestone roads are covered with a layer of white paper. The news on the newspaper is about Summit War. The boundless tsunami shocked the whole world in an instant. 092. Famous in the world, offering a reward of 3.5 billion. Now, 3 days have passed since the Summit War. During these 3 days, the sea has never stopped at all. All the people in the world get the newspaper news that hits the whole world. Summit War. This is a war where Marine threatens Ace, the second captain of the Whitebeard pirates, and forces the 4 emperors Whitebeard of New World to start a war with them. This is on the sea. The biggest battle ever fought between Marines and pirates. The two sides invested in troops, almost close to 200,000. The war is raging. Permeated the entire Marineford. First thought Marine was bound to win. Annihilate the Whitebeard pirates in the surrounded Marineford. But they really didn't expect it, in the end, but it was such a result. Marine lost. Look at the contents of the newspaper. Especially seeing Luffy lead 20,000 prisoners to Marineford at the most critical moment. With the strength of one person. Enter the center of Marineford, go deep into the hinterland of Marine, and take Ace away on the execution platform in full view. Tackle Shichibukai, the world's #1 swordsman, pirate empress, and more. Face the 3 admirals directly, and beat the 3 admirals seriously by one person. There are also various contests with the legendary Marine hero Garp the Fist. One day after another. Such a brilliant record. Countless people have been excited and filled with emotion. Luffy, the captain of the Straw Hat Pirates, Luffy, the head of more than a dozen supernovas. He is simply too strong, ridiculously strong, too strong. A supernova. Surprisingly able to rival the 3 admiral and the hero Garp. His appearance. It can be said to be the turning point of the entire Summit War. As long as he joins any party, whether it is Marine or Baitwan, the balance of victory will be tilted. Not only that, some gossip is still rumored. Luffy may be more than one demon fruit power. Multiple devil fruits? How can this be? Many people simply do not believe this fact. But in the Summit War, a large number of people saw it with their own eyes. Luffy has used lava fruit, frozen fruit, sparkling fruit and many other devil fruit abilities. Plus the rubber fruit that he already has. 08 isn't that enough proof that he's multiple demon fruit powers? Is Luffy really multiple demon fruit powers? The Straw Hat Pirates are really strong. They have just sailed to the first half of the Grand Line. If they let him enter the New World, what kind of storm will it cause? Yeah. This year's supernova can be called the era of extreme evil. It's not just an era of extreme evil, with Luffy here, the status of a supernova has been elevated. Not to say that there will be no one to come after, but it is absolutely unprecedented. One super, many strong, these supernovas, I am afraid, will be a very troublesome object for Marine. A large number of people in the world are talking about recent events. Especially Luffy. Now Luffy is on the cusp. Become the object of countless people fueling the flames. Admired by the world. Whenever Luffy is mentioned, everyone praises him in an endless stream. His strength, his ability, his cause, things fermented. Terrified the whole sea. There are tens of thousands of fans. Luffy's first name. It has already resounded through the Grand Line, resounded through the 4 seas, and even resounded through the whole world. However, compared with the praise of outsiders. As a party, Luffy is a headache, Sabaody Archipelago. Luffy sat on his 1000 sunny, in front of him. There are a full 20 warships, and on the 20 warships, there are nearly 20,000 imprisoned prisoners who are eager to look for talent. Luffy is distressed. How should I arrange these prisoners in front of me? 20,000 people. This number is too many. What to do with them? It is a problem that Luffy suffers from. Here it is. A pair of slender hands rests on Luffy's temples. The slender hands rubbed gently. Luffy only felt that his fatigue was fading rapidly. He turned his head, but saw Robin right in front of him. Robin relieved Luffy's stress, and at the same time she said with a big smile, "Are you still worrying about the more than 20,000 people in front of you?"
Yeah, I don't have the territory like Whitebeard, nor the capital of Wano-Kuni like Kaido, 20,000 people or 20,000 mouths, I can't feed them.
Luffy sighed. Then you can dismiss them. Robin continued to massage Luffy. I've already said, but look at them. Luffy has said similar things. But this gang of prisoners is going to follow Luffy. Luffy's powerful strength has been deeply rooted in the hearts of the people. And since these 3 days, they finally learn about Luffy's past. Starting from East Blue, several Shichibukai were eliminated on the way, Enies lobby was flattened, CP9 was dealt with, and even the legendary pirate Golden Lion was defeated by him. Luffy is the one who was offered a reward of 2 billion by Marine. Outstanding ability and strong strength. Of course they all want to follow Luffy. In this turbulent sea, if there is no strong support, they will not be able to gain a foothold anyway. Follow Luffy. It is a wise choice. How about setting up separate units like the Whitebeard pirates? Robin was also trying to figure out a way for Luffy. Is it like being affiliated with the pirates? Hearing this, Luffy slowly opened his eyes. This is a way, but the question is, how can I feed these 20,000 people? If get all your assets, it can last for a while. Luffy has a little money, which is given to him by the City of Water, Bingshan. And the stolen money extorted from Marine, but the problem is. The money seems like a lot, but distributed to 20,000 people. It's only been a while, after this, so what should I do now? It was precisely because of this that Luffy was thinking hard. Sorry, Robin said a little aggrieved. Why are you apologizing? Luffy was a little dumbfounded. I can't seem to help. Robin said with a sigh, it's okay, just give me a press. Luffy patted himself on the shoulder, then said with a smile, I really like the way you care about me now. Suddenly heard Luffy's words. Robin's cheeks flushed slightly. He bit his lip. My heart is as sweet as eating honey. Soon. Luffy stood up. There's a way, above the sea. In addition to strength, subordinates are also very important. Just like this summit war, if there are only 16 captains of the Whitebeard pirates, there are only 1,600 people under them. How could these 1,600 people beat Marine's 150,000 people? Whitebeard was able to compete with such a behemoth as Marine. They rely on the 43 affiliated pirates, in other words. Luffy's current 20,000 people cannot be lost, once there is any war in the future. Just Luffy at the beck and call. All the subordinates from all directions came and gathered. That scene. What a spectacle, so. Anyway, Luffy had to figure out a way to keep them, too. As for how to do it, Luffy references the courier company that Buggy launched on the Grand Line after he took the title of Shichibukai. Buggy back then, because relying on a large number of prisoners. The wind and water are mixed, make money every day. Extra cash. What is Luffy missing right now? It is money. If it is possible to expand the courier company, if there are more than 20,000 people, it will be easy to feed. Luffy quickly summoned the crew and started a meeting. Nami, Zoro, Usopp, Yishao, and Green Bull are all present. Luffy recounted his proposal, as soon as this statement came out. Immediately, everyone agreed. If we can really develop a courier company, it can solve our immediate situation. Nodding with a smile, agreeing with Luffy's idea. Although I don't know much about making money in business, 20,000 people must stay. If the Marine launches an attack similar to Summit War on us someday, we won't win with just a few of us. Green Bull also agrees. I agree, Zoro replied. Me too. Others followed suit with Luffy's idea. My god, are we going to have 20,000 subordinates soon? Usopp was a little dumbfounded. Even if he was bragging at the beginning, it was only 8,000. Now suddenly there is an extra 12,000, which makes him a little confused. Nami, I'm afraid we can't keep the money of the Straw Hat Pirates with you, and we have to give it all this time. Luffy looked at Nami and said, I see. Nami also knew which was more important, and was willing to spend all her money immediately. She's just a little pity. With so much money, I haven't covered myself yet. The result is now being sent away, but this is better than growing their Straw Hat Pirates. Nami is also happy to oblige, after the discussion is over. Luffy talked to 20,000 prisoners about his thoughts. You can stay. But they have to take a long-term view. Luffy decided to start a Sea Express company, which requires a lot of their manpower to assist. Everyone listened, as long as Luffy is willing to let them stay. Not to mention the courier company. Even if you go up the Knife Mountain and down the oil pan, you don't frown. 20,000 people are magnificent. That made Luffy nod. He came to Crocodile, Bullet, both are still in prison. The original agreement has been completed, it stands to reason that the two should leave. However, perhaps because of regaining freedom for a while, Bullet is at a loss for the future, he didn't know what to do either. In the early years, Crocodile also has desert countries to conquer. Now it's all turned into froth, into superficiality. This let Crocodile not know where to go. It happened that Luffy took in 20,000 people and started a courier company. After being told by Luffy, they immediately became interested. So there was no rush to leave, seeing that the two of them were actually willing to stay. This is something Luffy didn't expect to know. Bullet has the strength to rival Marine Admiral. Although Crocodile is not as powerful as Bullet, but there are also standard 50 to 50 personal attributes placed here. The two joined. This allowed Luffy's overall strength to increase rapidly. The courier company is referring to Buggy. Luffy simply handed everything over to Buggy. Buggy listened. Luffy actually handed over 20,000 prisoners to himself. He was flattered. With all his virtues and capabilities, he was actually able to be appreciated by Luffy. Immediately, he's desperate and hell-bent on working for Luffy. In fact, it is not unreasonable to choose Buggy 480. First, in the original book, Buggy is already doing this job very well. Second, out of the 20,000 people, 15,000 people are led by Buggy. Certainly, these 15,000 people are just ordinary prisoners. If you put it in Impel Down, it's just the people on the first and second floors. Far less than the third floor, the fourth floor, and even those horrible guys on the sixth floor. That's why Luffy picked him. Luffy took out all his belongings. Expansion of Sea Express Company. Not only that, he also copied all the rules about express delivery in his previous life. This process, it's Luffy working overtime all night.
I stayed up for 3 full days and 3 nights. Very tired. Only then will the rules be perfected. This is a reference to the industry rules of all express companies such as SF Express, Yuantong Express, and Zongtong Express. There are these springboards. I believe that Buggy's work as a courier company will become easier and simpler. Luffy temporarily organized the 20,000 people into 3 fleets. Captain number 1 is Buggy. The second captain is Bullet. Captain number 3 is Crocodile. Say it bluntly. The current number 1 captain, Buggy. In terms of status, he is not weaker than Marco, the first captain of the Whitebeard pirates. Suddenly in a high position. There are so many subordinates below. Every strength is stronger than oneself. There's also Bullet, formerly also on Roger's crew, and Crocodile, one of the former Shichibukai. Buggy was a little dumbfounded. Excited heart, trembling hands. My legs can't stand it anymore. He could feel that Luffy valued him. But that's why Buggy became more and more motivated. Continuously extract the rules for 3 days and 3 nights. Luffy is a bit tired too. He fell asleep soundly.
However, when he just woke up, a shocking news
into his ears. Because of Summit War Luffy's spoiler, Marine's previous efforts were wasted. Whitebeard was not wiped out, and their Marine was severely injured instead.
Marshal Sengoku was often scolded by Marijoy. Marine was criticized not lightly.
Therefore, Luffy's bounty was raised to 3.5 billion. Now, a reward of 3.5 billion was offered. It has spread throughout the world.
The reward for the first half of the Grand Line has been increased to 3.5 billion. If the previous 2 billion can be surpassed, this is 3.5 billion.
It is simply impossible to surpass the object. The world was shocked, countless people looked sideways, a large number of people's pupils constricted, and everyone looked forward to it. 5th Emperor. Luffy has taken the 5th Emperor's throne on the Grand Line. Open black lens bracket 093 close black lens bracket invite Luffy to become 7 warlords of the sea.
Except Luffy is on the bounty. The bounties of other crew members have also increased. After all, they all participated in Summit War. Although the strength of everyone is not outstanding, the influence in Summit War is not large enough.
But don't forget, they have the tags of the crew members of the Straw Hat Pirates.
Zoro was raised to 400 million. Sanji was also raised to 300 million.
Robin was also raised to 150 million. And Usopp, Nami, etc. The rewards have also increased a lot. Even Brook and Frankie, who just joined, have been rewarded for upgrades one after another. Not to mention Yishao and Lunyu. The Green Bull is more prominent, in the Summit War tough Akainu.
Powerful, shocking 4. The reward has been raised to 1.2 billion. If you smile, keep a low profile, it just increased from 500 million to 800 million.
Among the prisoners, most people's rewards didn't increase much. There are only 2 people, Crocodile and Bullet. The former is not Shichibukai, and the latter is a strong man from the old era.
After the 2 of them resumed the bounty, they performed brilliantly in the Summit War. It also increased the long-standing rewards of the 2 of them a lot. Crocodile was originally more than 80 million Pele. After this battle, it was raised to 700 million. Bullet had a bounty of 1.2 billion in the old days, but this time it was raised to 1.8 billion. Overwhelmed the Green Bull. Of course. Although it is overwhelming, the Green Bull has only just entered the sea. In terms of rewards, it is naturally inferior to Bullet, which has been outstanding in the old days. What surprised Luffy the most was Buggy, although there is not much performance. But the 15,000 prisoners obeyed him and commanded well in the Summit War. The bounty has also increased from a small 15 million Baileys to 500 million. The moment Buggy got the news, he froze for a while at first. Then let out a shocking laugh. I never thought that I would have a day when I would offer a reward of over 100 million. He finally found the wealth code. Follow Luffy to eat meat. All in all, the reward amount for all members has been raised to a new height. Rise of the Straw Hat Pirates. Unstoppable, except that the bounty for all members has been raised. When the influence on the sea is flourishing, Marine also sent a messenger to Sabo the archipelago. Luffy, Marine sent a messenger and said they want to see you. Robin came in from the outside suddenly, and she said to Luffy who was practicing. Messenger? Inside the room, Luffy looked up. There is indeed such a saying as a messenger on the sea. And there is an unwritten rule. When the two sides are at war, don't behead them. It's like when Shanks landed on the Moby Dick, he sent a messenger to Whitebeard. The so-called courtesy first and soldiers later, that's the reason. Let's go, let's see what the messenger wants to say. Luffy waved and led Robin out, on the deck of Thousand Sunny. Green Bull, Yishao, Frankie, Brook and others also stood on it one after another. After seeing Luffy coming, everyone gave way. Surrounded by everyone, Luffy came to the messenger. The moment I saw this messenger, Luffy was really taken aback for a moment. I saw her with long pink hair, dressed quickly and neatly, with a touch of arrogance on her flimsy face. Her expression was condensed, like a 1,000-year-old ice that keeps people away from thousands of miles away. Hina. Luffy recognized the woman with long pink hair in front of her at a glance. Hina. The current Marine Colonel, it is a potential stock in Marine. He and the Smoker generation were also Admiral Zephyr's students. Has a pivotal position in Marine. As long as she is given a little time, she will become Vice Admiral in the future, and is even expected to hit Admiral. Behind Hina, there are also 2 Marine soldiers. Certainly, Luffy doesn't know the 2 soldiers in this entourage. Unexpectedly, the now famous Luffy actually recognizes Hina. Although Hina was astonished, Luffy recognized her identity at a glance. But she pretended to be calm, and at the same time said with a haughty tone, "Since I know Hina's name, why didn't she show up for so long? Is this how your Straw Hat Pirates treat guests?" "I know, of course I know, Zephyr's servants are all over Marineford, why don't I know the famous Hina?" Luffy chuckled, and then he pointed at Hina with one hand. "Zoro, take her down." As soon as this word came out, everyone looked at Luffy in surprise. Actually, Hina was a little apprehensive when she came to see Luffy, but in order not to insult the dignity of their Marine. "Treat these pirates. You must be proud of your talents." But she never thought of it, the second sentence from Luffy. "It is to take yourself down." Immediately, Hina became alert. Except for Hina. Zoro is also a confused person, he anxiously said to Luffy. "Luffy, it's not like you don't know that my knife doesn't cut women. Who told you to chop her? Just take her for me." Luffy said with a big wave of his hand. "Here Luffy explain." Zoro also drew his sword. Then it turns into the back of the sword, and all the swords are directed towards the Mienjun. Wow. In the blink of an eye, Zoro's speed flickered, and the slash in his hand was like a wave, one wave stronger than the other. Although Hina is very afraid, but that's also a fear of Luffy. She doesn't know Zoro. I thought it was just an unknown swordsman. "Challenge me? You are afraid, get it, that you may have identified the wrong person?" Hina is full of confidence in herself. Black bar. The devil fruit ability is released on Hina, but saw a series of black iron pillars cast out from Hina's hands, rushing towards Zoro. Clang. The moment the black bar collided with the sword, Hina was so shocked that she retreated violently. The hands are even more numb, her face is not calm. The previous self-confidence is gone. Is an unknown swordsman in the Straw Hat Pirates so powerful? 2. Although Zoro itself is pretty good, but Luffy's highlights are just too much. So much so that when it comes to the Straw Hat Pirates, everyone thinks of Luffy. No matter what. It's also a smile, these people are born in green. Finally it's Zoro, Sanji's turn. Open black lens bracket 094 close black lens bracket under the deep sea, go to the Fishman Island. No way. In the first half of the Grand Line, their strength may be very strong. Available in New World. Not worth mentioning, so that's why Hina doesn't know Zoro. Zoro spared no effort either. A heavy slap on Hina's body with the back of the knife. Hina flew upside down, he bumped his head against the deck behind him. When she raised her head, Zoro's autumn water was already on her neck. Wonderful. Luffy clapped his hands. Zoro's strength has also improved rapidly now. Hina is very talented, and she also has a pivotal position in Marine. Can fight Zoro for less than a few rounds. It was killed by Zoro. This is also explained from the side. Now Zoro's strength is extraordinary. Meet opponents who are not Zoro. Hina glared at Luffy viciously. "Straw Hat Boy, don't go too far." Luffy looked down at Hina in front of him, and said, "Too much. Why did I go too far? Do you know why I want to take you down?" Why? Hina really didn't know why. Some at war, you Marine seem to be the defeated party. Since you are the defeated party, you have to show me the humble appearance of the defeated party, and stop slapping your face 390 times in front of me to make you fat. Your arrogant attitude just now, who is it for? Luffy said coldly. Indeed, when I first boarded the ship. Hina was defiant and contemptuous, and the rest of the crew saw that she was here for the sake of envoy. He didn't even bother with her. But they don't care. It doesn't mean Luffy doesn't care. Feel sorry. This is Thousand Sunny, and this is the territory of the Straw Hat Pirates.
This is not the place for these strutting marines to run wild. You hear what Luffy said? Hina pointed at Luffy, without saying a word for a long time. He couldn't move, but the two attendants behind Hina are still alive. They want to launch an attack on Zoro. Luffy just took a step forward. The momentum alone knocked them back out. All of a sudden. Luffy is like the creator above all things. Hina suddenly became apprehensive. Is this the attitude of the strong man who was offered a reward of 3.5 billion by Marine? Luffy took Zoro's AIFG, Autumn Water, and he put the long knife on Hina's neck in a leisurely manner. The voice said with concern, "Come on, tell me about your purpose of being a Marine envoy this time. If you are right, I will kill you." Hina looked at the long knife attached to her neck, and was still very horrified. But after hearing Luffy's words, she became anxious. "If you are right, you will kill me."
Oh shit. What kind of world is this? I'm telling the truth, can't I escape your cruelty?
Sorry, slip of the tongue, if I make a mistake, I will kill you.
Luffy's old-fashioned correction. Hina knew she had no choice now.
You can only reveal your purpose in full. Turn out to be.
Since Summit War, both Crocodile and Jinbei were kicked out of 7 warlords of the sea.
Luffy is now at the level of Shichibukai. This time I sent Hina over. I just want to invite Luffy to become 7 warlords of the sea as Marine. Become a legal pirate. 7 warlords of the sea. You Marines are really huge. Don't Marines complain about everything I did before. Destroy Eni's lobby, make trouble in Marineford, and even the Summit War was dismantled by me.
Luffy is very curious about Marine's attitude now.
Master Marshal said, as long as you promise, the previous grievances will be wiped out. Hina looked at Luffy calmly and said, 7 warlords of the sea, the old man Sengoku can still accommodate me, the Prime Minister can hold a boat in his belly, I saw it today. Luffy kind of admired Sengoku's massiveness. But let's be honest.
He's not interested in 7 warlords of the sea.
Present. Luffy refused and said, thank you for your kindness, but I refuse.
Reject? Hina paused, she didn't expect Luffy to refuse.
People say that the 7 warlords of the sea are Marines' lackeys. I don't intend to serve Marine. Besides, on the way you came here, didn't you hear the rumors in the sea? Luffy said with a smile on his face. What rumor? Hina didn't know what Luffy was referring to. Straw Hat Luffy has confirmed the status of the 5th player. The smile on Luffy's face was very strong, and he went on to say, you said that the temptation of 7 warlords of the sea is bigger, or the 5th emperor. This moment, Hina finally knew the reason for Luffy's refusal. Indeed, 7 warlords of the sea is a fatal temptation for some pirates. But in front of the 5th emperor, 7 warlords of the sea is a bit unqualified. This. Hina hesitated for a while, she looked at Luffy and said, since you refused, then Hina has nothing to say, why don't you let Hina go? During the conversation, Hina prepares to get up. But the moment she stood up, Luffy pushed her down again. I know the purpose of your coming here, for the sake of telling the truth, I won't kill you, such a delicate woman, kill her.
It's a pity, but I won't let you go either. If I catch a female prisoner, I will regret it for the rest of my life if I let her go.
Straw Hat Luffy, what do you mean? Hina was a little uneasy. What do you mean? That's what I mean. You have been detained by me. I will send your followers to report back. What about you? Just stay here honestly. Luffy didn't hold back either. Capture 2 of Hina's minions. Throw them directly into the sea. Luffy detains Hina again. Just like Perona back then, put on seastone handcuffs and lock them all on Thousand Sunny. Take care of things here with Hina. Luffy said to everyone. Okay, now the matter that Sabayati Archipelago should solve has been solved. Our primary goal now is to go to the New World and prepare to meet greater challenges. By then, we will be surrounded by our enemies. Are you all afraid? Hear what Luffy said. Frankie and others laughed. Luffy, isn't our goal to reach the final island? There's nothing to be afraid of. That is.
Why would we go to sea if there were no hardships?
Everyone's morale is high. Very good. Everyone can rest for 10 days, and after 10 days, go to the Fishman Island at a depth of 10,000 meters. Luffy pointed to the deep sea and said, open black lens bracket 095 close black lens bracket Nami who overturned the jar of vinegar. 10 days passed in a flash. Actually, this is Luffy's holiday for everyone. However, the current crew members are more active than each other. The so-called holidays are actually spent on Thousand Sunny. In their view, Luffy, the captain, has come so far now. If you are not working hard, I'm afraid I'll be thrown far away.
Seeing so many crew members are so positive, Luffy just shook his head helplessly.
Today, Thousand Sunny has a guest on it. Pluton Rayleigh. Learn that Luffy is going to the Fishman Island. Rayleigh explained. The Fishman Island is the only way to pass through the New World, which is 10,000 meters deep in the sea, but if you want to reach the Fishman Island, you must have a boat film. If possible, how about I help you code it for free? Rayleigh is also a good coding player. Coding is just a drop in the bucket for him. Everyone listened. They all agreed with Rayleigh's request. However, Luffy just smiled. Mr. Rayleigh, have you heard of the ship Spirit?
Ship spirits? I've heard of it in an ancient book. Pluton Rayleigh wondered why Luffy mentioned the ship sprite.
Good. Luffy pulled the boat spirit out again and whipped it. Inform Rayleigh, with the mysterious power of Thousand Sunny brought to them by the ship spirit. He doesn't need a coating at all and can still go in the water. Talking. Without further ado, Luffy maneuvers Thousand Sunny to dive in front of Rayleigh. After entering the water, an invisible barrier separates their hulls from the sea water.
It's like visiting an aquarium. No matter what kind of sea creatures, they all pass by Thousand Sunny.
To see such an outrageous scene, even Rayleigh was shocked. What's this? Rayleigh was more than surprised. He thought of the ship spirit that Luffy had said.
That's right, it's the ship spirit that gives us the Thousand Sunny buff. Luffy said firmly. At first, on the eve of the Summit War.
The two abilities he had drawn. One is to give Thousand Sunny the ability to fly. Another item is the shallow sea in front of you. Shallow sea. Let the hull have the ability to dive into the ocean, and ignore any attacks from Sea Kings.
Rayleigh was really overwhelmed by the Thousand Sunny's abilities. Just heard about the ship elves, never thought of it.
This is actually true, and right in front of me. That's all. Luffy let Buggy take root in Sabayati Archipelago, and develop the Sea Express Company industry on Sabayati Archipelago. I took other crew members with me. Rayleigh, Speakland Isles. Heading to the depths of the sea, the Fishman Island hidden in the Emerald Garden passed by.
The sea. It has always been daunting and yearning.
Fear its horror, return to its mystery. Thousand Sunny continued to dive. The more headed to the bottom of the sea. This is similar to falling into an abyss, and the boundless darkness envelopes you, making you more breathless. Nami's face turned pale. Stop talking about Nami. Even Robin covered his mouth and frowned. They looked at the boundless darkness around them. It's depressing and chills. There is no sunlight below 200 meters, let alone thousands of meters deep in the sea. And this is several thousand meters. Still have a long time to sail. Just when the two of them were about to lose their breath. Luffy put a hand on each of their shoulders. With a concerned tone, he asked, "Are you all right?"
Fortunately, there is a little fluid in the chest.
Robin said, "Me too." Nami also felt a little out of breath.
Then let me rub it for you, what do you think? Luffy laughed.
As soon as this statement came out, the second girl blushed immediately, and the sense of oppressive feeling of being out of breath disappeared.
Ha 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 ha, Luffy laughed instantly. It is indeed a bit far to drive down 10,000 meters.
But it's only a short while away. Soon, a ray of light appeared in front of everyone.
The light grew brighter and brighter, then presented in front of everyone.
The entire Straw Hat Pirates poked their heads out. Caught the eye, is a huge sphere. The sphere is surrounded by a layer of huge bubbles. There are colorful Madara inside. Like a giant deep-sea bulb. The Fishman Island has arrived. Luffy glanced at the pointer in his hand and said. Then, Zero, seeking flowers. Their Thousand Sunny through this giant multicolored Madara bubble of the Fishman Island. Jumped onto the shore of the Fishman Island. Since then, a new journey begins. Thousand Sunny finally arrived at the Fishman Island. The sun is refracted in from the outside. Maybe it was dark for a long time when crossing the 10,000-meter deep sea.
Suddenly the sun shines. This made everyone squint their eyes.
Having said that, but it still can't stop everyone's yearning for the Fishman Island. Eyes wide open, look carefully at the legendary Emerald Dream. The blue sky and white clouds, the coral groups, the sea breeze howling, the waves are not straight. On that shore, there is a row of mermaid ladies who are surfing.
Everyone is gorgeous, with cheerful smiles on their faces.
0.0. PFF'd. The moment he saw these charming mermaid girls, Sanji's eyes turned into hearts. Then blood spurted out of the nose. Passed out on the spot. Oh, Sanji, what's wrong with you? Suddenly saw Sanji like this.
Chopper went up immediately to stop the bleeding. Luffy clutches his forehead. Oh shit. I forgot. There was a womanizer on board my own boat.
But, Luffy took a second look too. Not to mention.
The figures of these mermaid ladies are really good. Especially under those figures. Has a mermaid tail. Full of mystery. It's refreshing. Those who are seductive can no longer be seductive. Does it look good? Nami couldn't look away when she saw Luffy, she asked with a sour tone.
It's beautiful and beautiful, Luffy subconsciously replied. Just finished. Nami was a little jealous and the jar was overturned.
Look at the figures of those mermaids. They are really good. But compared to herself, Nami is confident that she is better than them.
Looking at Luffy, Nami gritted his teeth, wondering if there is any clothing store on the Fishman Island.
Pick a few pieces well. Let this blind captain see what a real figure is.
Snort. Women are those who please themselves. There is also Robin who has the same idea.
She squinted her eyes. Time to dress up. Second. Open black lens bracket 096 close black lens bracket mermaid cafe. It was the first time for the crew to see the mermaid. Isn't Luffy? Looking at everyone's whim. Luffy lets everyone move freely. Go shopping when you should go shopping. Take a stroll when you should stroll. Even Luffy himself set foot on this Fishman Island.
And Thousand Sunny on, but he smiled and stayed alone.
He doesn't like noise and would rather stay in Thousand Sunny, a clean place. On a main street in the Fishman Island, Luffy looked around. Have to say, the Fishman Island is really unique.
The blue sky and white clouds are all there, as well as the humid air, bubbles that appear out of thin air, and local mermaid residents who come and go. Occasionally, Luffy also saw a few outsiders who looked like humans. Estimated, it's the same as the 543 flying, passing by the Fishman Island.
Those who want to reach the new world, certainly.
This time it came out, except for Luffy. He also has a follower.
I said, when are you going to follow me? Luffy turned around, looked at Perona behind her and said,
Perona, always on Thousand Sunny. During the Summit War, Luffy handed over Thousand Sunny docked at the Sabayati Archipelago to Zonghe for safekeeping. Perona also stops on Thousand Sunny. Now head to the Fishman Island.
She was naturally brought here by Luffy too, because now Perona is much more honest. Luffy doesn't have her freedom restricted, appropriate time.
Let her go out on her own. Snort. Perona snorted, and she looked at Luffy angrily and said, the road goes up to the sky, and who is following you? Little girl, tell me what you have to say, or I will leave you on the Fishman Island and leave you alone. Luffy snapped back. Did you meet Lord Moria when you were in Marineford? Perona questioned. Of course, I punched him. Luffy waved his fist. It turned out that the little girl wanted to ask about this matter. You. Perona pointed to Luffy. Moria was her original captain. Luffy sank her thriller bark and seriously injured her captain Moria.
Now after the Summit War encounter, Moria was given another punch. Perona got angry from it. My surname is Lu. I'll put my words here. If there is anything wrong with Lord Moria, I will never forgive you.
First, my surname is Monkey. Second, in the Summit War, everyone is the master. Both sides are at war. Is there any reason to hold back? Luffy said, holding out 2 fingers. Then, he went on to say, besides, I just punched Moria, and it was Jinbei who actually beat him to the ground.
Coincidentally, Jinbei is the person on the Fishman Island.
You can go to trouble him, but look at your little arms and legs. Jinbei is also a 7 warlords of the sea. I wonder if you can beat him. Luffy said with a playful attitude. Among the Summit Wars, Moria, friend or foe, harvests the shadows of marines and pirates.
Since then, Jinbei has been angered. He was seriously injured by Jinbei's Murloc karate. What else did Perona want to say? But what Luffy said was well-founded. She couldn't compare to Luffy.
He was speechless on the spot. Yes, is she really going to trouble Jinbei?
The others are 7 warlords of the sea. What are you?
As for me, it's still the same sentence. Gecko Moria is also a 7 warlords of the sea. Death is definitely impossible. If you want to meet him, if you are free some other day, I don't mind sending you go. Luffy chuckled lightly. Real. Perona, who was originally speechless, shouted in surprise when she heard Luffy's words. So easy to fall for. Luffy sighed. This Perona is too simple. Of course, I've always kept my promises, but I won't send you in vain. If you can make me happy, I really don't mind driving you back. Luffy said. Then, how to make you happy? Perona tilted her head and asked simply.
There are many ways for a man to be happy. It depends on how you behave, if appropriate. Luffy smiled and said. How to behave? Perona, who was still thinking about this sentence carefully, suddenly saw Luffy's wicked smile.
Even in simplicity, she understood. Kicked Luffy. Lu, are you kidding me?
My last name is Monkey, Luffy said speechlessly. The two bickered as they walked forward, noisy and noisy.
But Luffy always had a smile on his face, but Perona, who occasionally choked on what Luffy said, made her head dizzy with anger. Not for a while, the most prosperous street of the Fishman Island appeared in front of Luffy.
It's here. The crowd is surging, and the number of pedestrians is multiplied and doubled. A large crowd appeared in front of the two of them. Immediately afterwards, a familiar name came into Luffy's eyes.
Mermaid Cafe. All the time. There is a saying that has been circulating on the Fishman Island. When you come to the Fishman Island, no trip is complete without going to the Mermaid Cafe.
Not to mention whether this rumor is true or not.
But just from this comment on Mermaid Cafe, it is enough to illustrate the importance of Mermaid Cafe. And, it is said that the manager of this Mermaid Cafe is a mermaid named Shirley.
Shirley. The Fishman Island's well-known fortune teller has a great relationship with the Sun Pirates and 2.1 Murloc Pirates. And she is the younger sister of Arlong, the captain of the Murloc Pirates. Arlong and the Straw Hat Pirates are also inextricably linked in East Blue. I didn't expect to come here, just go in and have a look. During the conversation, as soon as Luffy grabbed Perona's hand, he walked into the Mermaid Cafe. Well, suddenly he was pulled back by Luffy. This made Perona stunned, but soon a bright red appeared on her cheeks. Neither break free. Let Luffy lead me, welcome. Just walk in. The 2 rows of mermaid girls standing at the door spoke enthusiastically. 097, Mrs. Shirley, the fortune teller of the Fishman Island. 097, Mrs. Shirley, the manager of Mermaid Cafe, enter the Murloc Cafe.
The luxurious furnishings inside are right in front of Luffy and Perona. Near the water towers, resplendent and magnificent. The furnishings are extremely quiet, and there are mermaids serving tea and water with people coming and going. Is this the mermaid cafe? Perona looked around, and then realized that the inside was really different from the outside. Her eyes were drawn to it. No wonder there is such a high evaluation, but the trip is worthwhile. Luffy nodded. I am very satisfied with this mermaid cafe.
It is almost close to the furnishings in a modern 5-star hotel. You are Captain Luffy. Suddenly, a voice came from Luffy's ear.
Immediately afterwards. But I saw a mermaid looked at Luffy and said in surprise.
You know me? Luffy turned his head and asked suspiciously.
No, it's our store manager who said that there is a distinguished guest coming to our mermaid cafe today, so let us treat him nicely. Unexpectedly, this distinguished guest is Captain Luffy. The mermaid explains for Luffy. During the conversation, she led the way for Luffy, and 08 came to a private room.
The private room is filled with delicate fragrance. The fragrance is tangy and spreads all over the wild. The mermaid who led the way quickly withdrew. Only Luffy and Perona were left inside.
I didn't expect that you, a pirate, have a lot of face. Even the manager of this mermaid cafe favors you.
Perona looked at Luffy amusedly, and then she continued. But then again, how did the store manager know that you came to their place? The manager of Mermaid Cafe is Shirley, a famous fortune teller in the Fishman Island. I don't wonder why she counted me here. Luffy is quite open about it. Divination? When Perona heard this, her eyes widened.
Covering his mouth with one hand. It seems a little unbelievable that in this world, there really is such a profession as a fortune teller. The world is full of wonders, so don't take it too seriously.
Luffy said. Not for a while. The private room was opened again.
Outside, a water-blue mako shark mermaid walked in with lotus steps, with a smile on her face, as white and flawless as the bright moon in the sky. At first glance, it looks like a queen. This temperament is here. Something
Nami, Robin or even Perona didn't have. It is somewhat similar to Hina's. The honored guest is here, welcome from far away.
Dear Captain Luffy, I am very glad that you can come to the Mermaid Cafe. Shiarly opened her mouth, opened her thin lips lightly, and said in a fluttering voice. You are Mrs. Shiarly. On the Fishman Island, most people use titles like Mrs. to call Shiarly in front of them. Luffy also does as the Romans do. But I don't know why.
Luffy noticed that Shiarly looked at him with obvious vigilance.
It seems to be afraid of something. Could it be that his current name is too grand? So that these people are a little scared. This is not without reason. It's me. I'm very happy to be here to enjoy the warm hospitality of our Mermaid Cafe. In addition, all expenses, this store can provide you for free, that is to say, your consumption this time is entitled to let me pay the bill.
Shiarly waved his little hand and said to Luffy a lot of face. Is my face so valuable? Luffy didn't expect Mrs. Shiarly to be so sensible and pay for her own consumption. Although your Straw Hat Pirates haven't arrived in He World yet, you have already established the title of 5th Emperor in New World. Captain, do you think we dare to accept you with such a big name? What's the cost? Besides, it would be a great honor for our small shop if we can pay 5th Emperor well. Does Chuan Neng have any other ideas? Shiarly explained. Well, that's true. Luffy also understood what Shiarly said.
But he raised a finger. Ms. Shiarly, actually, I still have 10 doubts.
Captain, please tell me, Shiarly said, but it doesn't matter. Well, why do you have a trace of terror on your face when you look at me? Or fear, or dread? Luffy stared at Shiarly in front of him with clear eyes and asked. He found, since I have practiced observation haki to the current level. Some people's facial expressions change in those details. All of them can be seen by him, through these expressions. Adding Luffy's experience that is about to run into the third. It is not difficult to guess what is going on in their hearts. Obviously, Luffy sensed Shiarly's fear of him. Captain, you are joking, let alone whether you are afraid, even if you are. After all, you are already famous all over the world. When we meet for the first time, you will naturally be suppressed by your aura, won't you? Shiarly covered it up pretty well. Is it? Luffy pressed. When? Of course. When saying these words, Shiarly's forehead was a little cold and sweaty. Because of Luffy's aura, he was already oppressed. That's all, since you didn't say it, I won't pursue it. You're the one who said it was free for consumption in your store. Luffy said. The voice just fell, his momentum withdrew. Nature. As if Shiarly had been pardoned, she felt resigned and said, please enjoy as you please, and I won't bother you. Talking. Shiarly backed out, leaving the private room. The moment the door is closed, Shiarly let out a long breath. Just now, she sensed the pressure Luffy was unleashing. That squeezing feeling made Shiarly feel uncomfortable. Simply come and go quickly. Is this the power of the 5th Emperor? Relying on his own strength, he reversed the situation of the entire Summit War. It was just heard before. Finally see it now. To ask Shiarly why is he afraid of Luffy. Let's talk about being afraid of Luffy's current reputation as the 5th Emperor. This is just one of them.
Another point is, through the crystal ball.
She foretold the future destruction of the Fishman Island. Open black lens bracket 098 close black lens bracket divinating the future. Will Luffy destroy the Fishman Island? Summit War didn't start before. Shiali once made a fortune for the Whitebeard pirates.
The final result is only one. The Whitebeard pirates are defeated. Whitebeard, the strongest man in the world, will also fall in Marineford. Except for him, Ace of Evil Blood will also be killed by Akainu, one of the 3 admirals. Although in the end the Whitebeard pirates left Marineford by chance.
But he was also hunted down by Blackbeard and Whitebeard too.
So that it finally fell apart. The strongest pirate group in the world was burned and destroyed.
But, in this divination, a new star appeared, not only appear.
Nova stands right above the Whitebeard pirates. It is as bright as Zway's star.
The moment this new star shines bright, the entire Marineford occupancy will be reversed. However, the scenes of Whitebeard's fall, Ace's death, and the disintegration of the Whitebeard pirate group did not appear. This was something Shiali hadn't expected, for more than 20 years.
Shiali claims to be a fortune teller, so naturally she has no plans.
Almost nothing she expected, but this is Summit War.
She was wrong. The result of being out of the cage made Shiali stunned.
I actually made a mistake. Why is that? After various deduction, Shiali learned that this new star is the current 5th Straw Hat Luffy. To this end, Shiali tried to trick Luffy in vain.
But, on Luffy's body, covered with heavy fog, this fog is so shrouded that even Shiali, who has the ability of divination, cannot uncover the zero haze. Except she was wrong. It is impossible to predict a person's future, and it is also the first time Shiali appeared.
Why is that? All of a sudden there were so many intractable diseases.
This got Shiali interested in Luffy. What kind of a person he is. Why can't I even divination myself? Simply, just today. She foretold that Luffy would appear on the Fishman Island. How lucky is he to be able to meet the 5th Emperor? However, after the divination came out, another result was presented in front of Shiali.
Except that Luffy will arrive at the Fishman Island. He might even destroy the entire Fishman Island. Destroy? Why did he destroy the Fishman Island? Shiali didn't understand why such a hexagram appeared. But for more than 20 years, she counted everything, except that Whitebeard's Summit War was wrong.
There are almost never mistakes. After understanding all kinds of them, Shiali became wary of Luffy. That's why, when I met Luffy today, she showed a trace of awe and fear to eat. Luffy really wants to destroy them the Fishman Island. Who can stand it? None of the 3 admirals are his opponents.
Rely on only one Dragon Palace, only rely on one Jinbei.
This is something that can't be done at all, okay.
Then, she had no choice but to choose hospitality. At the same time, take this opportunity to observe Luffy well. In order to determine why he came to the Fishman Island. But Shiali really didn't expect it. Luffy was so perceptive. Fortunately, it was prevaricated at that time, otherwise. Once the 5 emperors were offended, I'm afraid this mermaid cafe of hers is about to disappear.
Just as Shiali was thinking, another mermaid ran in from outside.
The store manager is not good. The mermaid was panting, and she was really 10 shop assistants.
What's the matter? What's the panic? Shiali's thoughts were interrupted, which made her frown slightly.
Shop manager, the customer you said you wanted to wave today, he. It seems that the mermaid is out of breath because of running for a long time. Panting for a long time, there's no follow-up to say. He wants to destroy our mermaid cafe, he wants to destroy us the Fishman Island? Shiali stood up abruptly from his spot, she was terrified.
She was afraid. Really. The dreaded thing is about to happen. These 5 emperors were not good. Want to destroy the Fishman Island. Oops. Who can stop him? Who is his opponent? Shiali's complexion became ugly. Suddenly such a sentence burst out from Shiali's mouth. Instead, the mermaid lady who was out of breath was stunned. But seeing her stunned for a while, she said, No, he is so delicious, he ate up our mermaid cafe's food for a day.
As soon as this statement came out, Shiali, who was still nervous before, turned into bean eyes in an instant. Why? Too edible. Shiali also thought that Luffy was plotting to destroy them the Fishman Island.
Unexpectedly. But such an oolong. Shiali's face sank suddenly, and she shouted angrily towards the mermaid girls around her. This is such a big deal, come here to report, deduct wages. Miss Mermaid was dumbfounded when she heard this. Boss, I just came up to report whether the situation is okay. Very good. Why is my salary deducted? But seeing Shiali's angry look,
Miss Mermaid didn't dare to defend her either, he could only show an aggrieved face.
Looking dryly behind, simply, Shiali is not unkind either.
Although I was angry after a while, come on, let's go down and have a look together.
Shiali took the mermaid to the living room of their mermaid cafe. However, when Shiali just arrived here, I saw Luffy and Perona gobbling it up. Jiao. It seems to be competing who eats more. Both of their mouths were full. There is a thick and sincere smile on his face. Can you do it? Can you do it? Luffy said to Perona. HMPH, Miss Ben can still swallow a few plates, don't underestimate me. Gulu gulu. Perona also echoed, grabbing food and stuffing it into her mouth. Around. There are already 70 or 80 plates already placed. Their mermaid cafe is like Western food, the quantity is very small, 70 or 80 plates are piled up around them. This scene really looks bluffing. This scene. Charlie paused. She took a deep look at Luffy. There was a smile on his face, and that smile couldn't be faked at all. That kind of people, will it really destroy them? The Fishman Island. Open black lens bracket 099 close black lens bracket new Murloc pirates. Hello, Captain, you seem to have eaten up all the things in our shop. Such a big appetite to meet Luffy and Perona. Charlie blushed. Although it is free, but I can't stand their abuse. Almost finished. Sorry, I didn't realize it. Luffy said apologetically. Oh, have you eaten it all? Perona was also surprised.
It's okay, no problem. Shirley quickly said it was fine.
Joke. How dare I blame him? It's a time of joy here. Suddenly, there was a loud noise at the door. What happened to the Mermaid Cafe today? Why close the door to thank customers? An abrupt voice sounded dissatisfied at the door. Turn out to be, ever since Luffy walked into this Mermaid Cafe.
Shirley asked to dismiss the other people in the Mermaid Cafe. And announce it to the outside world. Their Mermaid Cafe is closed today.
Although the customers who were originally staying in the Mermaid Cafe left, the other people who couldn't enter the Mermaid Cafe were dissatisfied. Luffy looked for the reputation. This is an 8-legged octopus with strange tattoos on its body. The wearer wears a wine gourd with 8 swords hanging from his waist. He takes a sip of wine from time to time and looks drunk.
Speaker. It is this 8-legged octopus, leopard hidden. The moment he saw this 8-legged octopus, Shirley's beautiful eyes narrowed, and his expression was a little uneasy. Leopard hidden. One of the main cadres of the new Murloc pirates. He is an 8-sword swordsman, powerful and unparalleled in swordsmanship.
Otherwise, he wouldn't be a cadre of the new Murloc pirates. In the Fishman Island, he even competes with Zoro in swordsmanship.
And the new Murloc pirates. They're in full bloom here on the Fishman Island.
Even Dragon Palace can't restrain them. All the new Murloc pirates gather in Murloc Street, as long as they give an order, they may even occupy the Fishman Island. This is where the influence of their new Murloc pirates is widespread. Lawlessness refers to their new Murloc pirates. Leopard, who is he?
Shirley knew the cadres of the new Murloc pirates, but Perona didn't. She looked at Leopard suspiciously and said.
It seems that because of drinking a little wine, Bao Zhang's cheeks were a little drunk, and he walked unsteadily, but the moment he saw Perona, his eyes lit up.
People from outside, because they came to the Fishman Island for the first time, are particularly interested in the mermaid on the Fishman Island. In the eyes of the local residents of the Fishman Island, there are too many mermaids.
Compared to mermaids, a beautiful human woman will give them a different visual impact. At the moment, after Bao Zhang saw Perona, a young and beautiful woman, his drunk red eyes lit up immediately. Here, there is actually a beautiful woman.
Hiccuping, Leopard walked towards Perona. Reach out.
Seems to be trying to grab Perona. Bao Zhang, this is the Mermaid Cafe, not a place for your new Murloc pirates to run wild. Seeing that Bao Zhang dared to attack Luffy's people, Charlie was a little terrified, and she quickly stopped in front of Luffy. She wanted to stop Leopard from this daring act. Charlie, you go away.
If Captain Hody Jones had been here, Leopard might have given Shirley some relief. But now he is alone. Leopard Zhang doesn't care about Shirley's identity.
A tentacle directly knocked her out. Although Charlie is a fortune teller, he doesn't have the slightest combat power. In front of a swordsman like Leopard, there is absolutely no power to fight back. Immediately flew out backwards. Seeing is about to fall on the ground. Luffy disappeared in a flash. Catch her in midair. The princess hugged her in her arms. This is the first time Luffy is holding a mermaid. The upper body is probably like any other woman. But this lower body. Those are slippery fish scales. It feels different to the touch.
Shirley also suddenly noticed that she was hugged by someone else. The moment he raised his head, just looked into Luffy's eyes.
The 4 eyes are facing each other. Charlie moved away quickly. Let me down. Charlie faltered. Good. Luffy gently put Charlie down. His gaze moved towards Leopard Zhang. Who is this guy? Asked Luffy. He's a cadre of the new Murloc pirates, named Leopard, and a swordsman. Charlie explained to Luffy. The new Murloc pirates. I made a note.
Of course Luffy remembers the new Murloc pirates who were all powerful on the Fishman Island. But I didn't expect it. Met them so soon. Now, there is only Perona in the leopard's hidden eyes.
He even wanted to take this beautiful human woman in front of him as his own. The drunken red face showed a triumphant expression. But at the moment when his hand was about to touch Perona's body.
Boom. There was only a cracking sound in the air. Luffy kicked past, hid the leopard and kicked it into the ground.
He rolled on the ground a few times in embarrassment, and his head hit the rock so hard that the rock was smashed to pieces. Kicked by Luffy. This caused Bao Zhang to be overwhelmed inside his body. The wine he just drank was sprayed out by him. Scattered all over the place. Leopard hides here. For being kicked by Luffy. He suddenly sobered up a bit. Looked up. Look around. Who I am. Where am I? What is this place? At this time, Leopard Zhang also noticed that he was in the Mermaid Cafe, and at the same time saw Luffy in front of him. He is more aware. The one who kicked me just now was Luffy in front of me.
The Fishman Island is an isolated place, although the Summit War is raging in the outside world. But actually, there are only a few people who know Luffy's identity. Bao Zhang didn't recognize Luffy at first sight. Boy, you are quite courageous. How dare you attack our new Murloc pirates? Bao Zhang pointed at Luffy and said viciously. 100. Killing the enemy in seconds, is this the strength of the 5 emperors? Hear the leopard's voice. It's like Luffy just heard some big joke. What are the new Murloc pirates? I don't think I've ever heard of them. Luffy frowned, he said solemnly. Perona came up behind Luffy. Standing behind Luffy and winking at Bao Zhang. Thing?
In Leopard's heart, their new Murloc pirates are unquestionable. Now I suddenly heard such a sentence from Luffy. Leopard was furious. He pointed at Luffy and said angrily, then let you see what it means to see what is called a mountain beyond a mountain. Watching the two sides touch each other, Shiarly wanted to say something else.
But when she just opened her mouth, she was shocked to find that she couldn't utter a single word. She subconsciously looked at Luffy. The source of an invisible oppressive force is Luffy. This made Shiarly tense up. She knows. This man is really ready to make a move.
The Mermaid Cafe was originally on a bustling street.
The confrontation between Luffy and Leopard. Suddenly it attracted the attention of countless people.
A large number of people rushed over here. Hey, isn't that Leopard? Why is he here? Damn it, why did those people from the new Murloc pirates come near the Dragon Palace?
It's really Leopard. It is said that this person kills decisively, especially when he is drunk. Yu Zhang's knife is ruthless. Is Bao Zhang going to fight someone else? Who is the person who fought with him? How dare you provoke Bao Zhang?
The popularity of Leopard hidden now. It can be said that it is famous throughout the Fishman Island. Especially the new Murloc pirates behind him. If it wasn't for Jinbei standing on the side of Dragon Palace, I'm afraid they would have attacked Dragon Palace long ago.
It is precisely because the new Murloc pirates dominate the family.
This has also led to the popularity of all their members now, and everyone in the Fishman Island knows everyone.
In contrast to Luffy's side. Again. Even if the Summit War is over, the news on the surface of the sea will not reach the Fishman Island, which is 10,000 meters deep. Besides, even if passed over, it was also the people from Dragon Palace who got the news first. Leopard, who was part of the new Murloc pirates, never knew Luffy's identity, let alone other passersby. When passersby saw unknown humans, they actually had sex with the cadres of the new Murloc pirates.
Many people showed pity and sorrow in their eyes. They have only one thought in mind. It's over. This human has provoked an incredible existence. Just when everyone is optimistic about Bao Zhang, I think Luffy must lose. Even Bao Zhang was full of confidence, staring at Luffy with disdain. At the same time, he drew out his double swords and slashed at Luffy without hesitation.
Jumping clown. Facing Leopard slash. Luffy just raised his head lightly. This is the moment. Under his messy hair, a pair of eyes shot out a brilliant light. At the same time, the top Conqueror's Haki was turned on, and was forced into a silver needle by Luffy. Like a sharp weapon, it stabbed the Leopard straight away. Puff.
Leopard who just jumped up seemed to have been hit very hard.
The whole person fell to the ground with a bang. The 7 orifices bleed. Died on the spot. Without a little breath, it turned into a temporarily warm corpse.
This scene suddenly appeared. The passersby who were optimistic about Leopard Zhang of the new Murloc pirates fell silent.
There was no sound. Very quiet. The scene is like a quiet church. There is no noise at all. Next moment, boundless waves ignited in the hearts of all passersby. Wow. Everyone was dumbfounded. All of them stared at Luffy in disbelief. What did they see? What did they see? The human just raised his head and glared at Leopard. Leopard Zhang was stared to death by this human? Who is Leopard? The cadre of the new Murloc pirates. A formidable foe, but even such a powerful person. But he was also stared to death by this human being.
Who is he? A large number of people opened their mouths, looking at Luffy with horror, and even fear in their eyes.
For a while, all passers-by present wanted to know Luffy's identity. 0. Seeking flowers, can kill Leopard Zhang in one hit.
How terrifying is his strength. Even Shiarly couldn't help covering her mouth. He looked at Bao Zhang, and then at Luffy. Is this the power of the 5 emperors? Treat these people like Leopard hidden.
Just one look will kill the enemy, if you don't see it with your own eyes. She couldn't believe that Luffy still had such strength. Shiarly sat down on the ground. The previous worries resurfaced in his mind.
If Luffy really destroys the Fishman Island, even if the combat power of the entire the Fishman Island is doubled, I'm afraid it won't be Luffy's opponent.
Point zero. His forehead was instantly covered with cold sweat. Shirley couldn't help swallowing her saliva, chilling down the spine, restless heart.
And Perona behind Luffy. It was also the first time I was shocked by Luffy's strength. Sluggish. Shocked. He seems to be getting stronger again. Is this man a bottomless pit? To what extent does one have to improve one's strength before one can give up? Luffy here. He didn't care about solving a leopard hideout at all. In his opinion. But in front of him. 6. A nobody worth mentioning. What is a leopard hide? Luffy turned around and patted the dumbfounded Perona, who smiled and said, "Don't be stupid, it's time to get out of here." It's a little trivial. Conqueror's Haki can be released in a large area, or concentrated attack in a small area.
It is no different from ordinary marine soldiers.
Of course, it's just the imagination of other passers-by. Perhaps the Fishman Island is well known here. Such an attack. Now controlling Conqueror's Haki, Luffy can be said to be more than capable. If this is an attack on someone who is not strong. Are you dumbfounded? Force all Haki to the size of a silver needle. If it is to face a strong man like Whitebeard. As for the so-called staring at him to death. Maybe it was the same as this leopard, it was shaken to death alive.